For centuries, humanity has looked to the past, uncovering fragments of ancient civilizations that seem to defy explanation. What secrets are buried beneath the sands of time, waiting to challenge everything we know about history? From uncharted tombs to structures that stretch the limits of our imagination, the discoveries we're about to explore are so far beyond modern understanding, they'll leave you questioning the very foundations of human knowledge. What if the truth is stranger and more extraordinary than we ever thought possible? Join us as we embark on a journey to unravel mysteries that still refuse to be explained. High in the rugged hills of southern Corsica, amidst jagged cliffs and dense forests, lies an ancient fortress that has long stood as a silent testament to the island's enigmatic past, Castellu di Cucuruzzu. This imposing structure, perched atop a rocky outcrop, offers more than just a commanding view of the surrounding landscape. It speaks to the mysteries of a civilization that once flourished here, leaving behind more questions than answers. The Castellu di Cucuruzzu dates back to at least the 3rd century BCE, though some researchers suggest its origins may extend even further into prehistory. Built from large megalithic stones, its walls stand tall against time, yet the reasons for its construction remain shrouded in uncertainty. Its defensive features suggest it was designed for protection, perhaps against invaders or rival tribes. But the design of the structure and the absence of clear written records leave much to be desired in terms of definitive answers. As you approach the site, the sheer size and scale of the structure become immediately apparent. Massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, were carefully stacked to form defensive walls that rise and twist across the landscape. Within these walls, narrow passageways and a network of chambers are carved into the rock itself, suggesting a level of engineering sophistication that is both impressive and puzzling. Unlike typical fortresses of the era, Castellu di Cucuruzzu does not appear to follow a clear military strategy. The placement of its towers, the shape of its enclosures, and the design of its internal structures hint at something more than mere defense. Some scholars believe the fortress may have functioned as a symbolic site, a center of power and ritual for the Corsi, the island's ancient inhabitants. Indeed, there is evidence that the Corsican people practiced various forms of religious observance, but the exact nature of their beliefs is largely speculative. Fragments of what could be sacred objects have been uncovered in the surrounding area, though none provide a clear understanding of the rituals performed here. Was Castellu di Cucuruzzu a temple as much as a stronghold? Or was it perhaps a place of governance where the island's leaders, tribal chieftains perhaps, gathered to strategize or hold court? In addition to its role as a fortress, the Castellu may have also served as a refuge. The structure is located in a region of Corsica that is hard to reach by conventional means, surrounded by steep cliffs and rugged terrain. In this sense, Castellu di Cucuruzzu seems to have been a place of sanctuary, as much as a place of defense, a safe haven from the dangers of the outside world. This duality of purpose adds to the mystery. Why would such a sophisticated and strategically positioned site be built in a location so remote, so difficult to access? One of the most intriguing aspects of Castellu di Cucuruzzu is the peculiar arrangement of its entrances and passageways. Some lead to dead ends, others are deceptively narrow or hidden from view. It is almost as though the structure was designed to confuse or disorient anyone unfamiliar with it. Was this part of the fortress's defensive strategy? Or were these passages part of some larger ritualistic purpose? Given the lack of clear documentation about the original function of the Castellu, we are left to wonder if these architectural choices have a symbolic significance that we have yet to understand. Beyond the structure itself, the land surrounding the Castellu also holds its own mysteries. Ancient burial sites, dolmens, and stone circles litter the surrounding landscape, leading some to speculate that the area was once a religious center, or even a necropolis. The presence of these burial sites is significant. In many ancient cultures, the dead were buried with great care, often near places of power or importance. Could the Castellu di Cucuruzzu have been built on top of an even older sacred site, perhaps one that predates even the Corsi? The archaeological record also raises more questions than answers. Over the years, numerous excavations have uncovered fragments of pottery, tools, and weapons, offering glimpses into the daily lives of those who lived here. But these finds provide no clear answers about the ultimate purpose of the fortress. Some theorists suggest that the Castellu was linked to the enigmatic Nuragic culture, known for their megalithic stone constructions and mysterious religious practices, which spread across Corsica and Sardinia during the Bronze Age. Yet, no definitive proof has emerged to link the Nuragic people to this site. Could this fortress be the work of an entirely different civilization, one that has yet to be identified? One of the more curious aspects of Castellu di Cucuruzzu is the complete absence of any written records. In a time when many civilizations kept extensive records of their rulers, wars, and religious practices, the Corsican people left little behind. There are no inscriptions, no texts, no historical accounts to provide clarity on who built the Castellu or why. This absence of documentation is a stark contrast to other ancient civilizations that kept detailed chronicles of their rise and fall. Could this silence be intentional? Or is it simply the result of time's erosion, leaving us to piece together fragments of a forgotten past? As we stand before the towering walls of Castellu di Cucuruzzu, it is impossible not to feel a sense of awe and wonder. What mysteries remain locked within these ancient stones? What secrets might still lie buried beneath the earth? Was this structure merely a defensive fortress, or was it something far greater, an epicenter of ancient knowledge or a place of profound cultural significance? The unanswered questions linger in the air like a whisper from the past, beckoning us to explore further, to understand more. But as time marches on, some mysteries will remain unsolved, leaving us to ponder whether Castellu di Cucuruzzu is truly a fortress, or a gateway into a world we can never fully comprehend. From the wild, windswept highlands of Scotland, where the mist rolls over the ancient hills, rises a site of profound mystery, the Taponoth Hillfort. A sprawling stone fortress perched atop one of the highest points in Aberdeenshire, it stands as a silent sentinel to the past. Its origins, purpose, and the techniques employed in its construction remain elusive, casting a veil of intrigue over this seemingly unassuming landmark. The Hillfort, which dates back to the early Iron Age, is not just a simple cluster of stones, but an imposing complex, an elevated circular enclosure surrounded by a series of ramparts and ditches. From the summit, the panoramic views of the surrounding landscape are breathtaking, offering insight into why this spot was chosen. But what truly stands out is the mysterious stone core at the heart of the Hillfort. Rising from the ground like a natural formation, the stone core is made up of tightly arranged slabs, some of which are so perfectly cut and fitted that it seems impossible they could have been moved by primitive tools alone. These stones are not simply stacked haphazardly. They are deliberately placed, creating a remarkably solid structure that has withstood centuries of weathering. The precision of the stonework suggests a level of craftsmanship that seems out of place for the era in which it was built. How did the builders of Taponoth manage to move and shape these enormous stones, many of which weigh several tons? Mainstream archaeology suggests that such sites were constructed with rudimentary tools, but the degree of sophistication at Taponoth raises questions that have yet to be satisfactorily answered. Theories abound, ranging from the possibility that the builders used simple levers and ramps to more speculative ideas that invoke lost techniques of engineering, now forgotten by time. Yet, even the most practical of explanations seem to struggle to explain the sheer scale and accuracy of the stonework. At the heart of the site lies a curious feature, an alignment of stones that forms a core structure, something that at first glance seems to serve no clear purpose. No other hill fort in Scotland contains a stone core like this one. It's as though the builders intentionally created something that would stand apart from the rest of their constructions, perhaps symbolically marking the importance of the site. Or was it meant to serve some other function, one that remains unknown to us? For some, the stone core is a clue to the more esoteric purposes of Tap O Noth. Could it have been a place of ritual or spiritual significance? The alignment of stones may suggest a connection to celestial events, such as the solstices or equinoxes, that could indicate the site had an astronomical function. Some have even proposed that the core was a kind of observatory, built to align with the movements of the stars or the sun. While these ideas remain speculative, the precision and deliberate placement of the stones invite us to question whether the site's creators had a sophisticated understanding of the heavens, one that we have yet to fully appreciate. Adding to the mystery is the lack of definitive historical records about the Tap O Noth hill fort. While many Iron Age sites across Scotland are documented in ancient texts or oral histories, Tap O Noth seems to have left little trace in the written record. There are no clear accounts of its founding, no references to its builders or its inhabitants, and no direct evidence of the purpose it served. Local legends speak of the hill fort as a stronghold, a defensive position for an ancient tribe, but these accounts offer no concrete information. Could it be that Tap O Noth was a site that belonged to a people whose story has been lost to time? Another layer of complexity is the hill fort's strategic location. The hill, though prominent, is not particularly easy to reach. Its steep slopes and rugged terrain make it a challenging place to build, let alone defend. Why would the people of the Iron Age choose such a difficult location for their settlement? The answer may lie in the site's commanding position. It offers unparalleled views of the surrounding valleys, making it an ideal location for surveillance and defense. But there is also the possibility that the hill was chosen for reasons that go beyond military strategy. Was Tap O Noth seen as a sacred place, one that held a special significance for the people who lived there? Some scholars have suggested that the hill fort may have been abandoned long before its stone core was completed. The gradual erosion of its walls and the shifting of its stones over time could point to a gradual decline in use, perhaps caused by changes in the landscape, climate, or political circumstances. If Tap O Noth was abandoned, why did the builders leave it behind? Was it the end of an era, or did the site simply fade into obscurity, only to be rediscovered centuries later? What makes Tap O Noth even more intriguing is that it seems to have been a site of transformation. Archaeological evidence suggests that it was not always a fortified hill fort. Earlier phases of the site appear to have served different functions, with its layout changing over time. This suggests that the site may have been used for a range of purposes across different periods, but the specific nature of these shifts remains unclear. Was it a symbol of changing power dynamics, a political hub, or a spiritual center that evolved as the needs of the people shifted? It's a tantalizing possibility, but one that is still very much open to interpretation. The stone core at Tap O Noth, with its precise alignment and mysterious origins, stands as a reminder that we still have much to learn about the ancient world. What were the true intentions behind its construction? Was it simply a fortification, or was there a deeper meaning embedded within its stones, one that has been lost to time? And, perhaps most compelling of all, what might still lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? As with so many ancient sites, Tap O Noth remains an enigma, a puzzle that invites speculation but offers few definitive answers. The questions it raises about the past are as vast as the landscape itself, stretching back thousands of years into a time we can only imagine. As we continue to probe its secrets, we are left to wonder, what other discoveries, hidden beneath the soil or buried in the stones, might still await our gaze? Nestled in the lush foothills of the Golan Heights, just to the north of the Sea of Galilee, lies the ancient city of Tel Dan. Today, it's a tranquil archaeological site, attracting visitors who seek a glimpse into its storied past. Yet, beneath the peaceful atmosphere, Tel Dan holds one of the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring features of the ancient world: its massive stone ramparts. Rising dramatically from the surrounding landscape, the ramparts are an impressive testament to the ingenuity of their builders. Constructed from colossal stones, some weighing multiple tons, they stand as a fortress against both time and the elements. The sheer size and precision of the walls are enough to make one pause. How did the builders of Tel Dan, living thousands of years ago, move and place such enormous stones with the tools available to them at the time? The construction of the ramparts likely dates back to the 9th century BCE, during the reign of the ancient kingdom of Israel. But while the historical context is relatively clear, the methods used to build them remain an enduring mystery. The site has been excavated extensively, yet even today, archaeologists are unable to replicate the techniques used to move and position the massive stones that make up these walls. These ramparts, though built for defense, seem to possess a quality beyond mere practicality. The scale, the craftsmanship, and the precision with which the stones were arranged raise more questions than they answer. For all their power and grandeur, the ramparts' purpose remains shrouded in mystery. The most widely accepted explanation is that they were part of a defensive fortification system built to protect the city of Dan from invading armies. The site's location, strategically positioned near important trade routes, would have made it an attractive target for conquest, and the ramparts may have been constructed to provide protection from such threats. But could there have been other, less obvious reasons for their construction? What if they were not merely a functional fortification, but a symbol of power, a statement about the wealth and might of the people who lived here? The design of the ramparts adds another layer of intrigue. The walls themselves are not uniform. They curve and bend in ways that suggest the builders had a deep understanding of architecture and engineering. Some sections of the wall have been constructed using a technique called ashlar masonry, where the stones are precisely cut to fit together without the need for mortar. Other parts of the ramparts are composed of rough, unshaped stones, leading to the question, was there a specific reason for this variation in construction style? Did the builders use different methods for different purposes? Or was this simply a reflection of the limitations of their time? While mainstream scholars have attributed the construction of the ramparts to the Israelites, there are alternative theories that suggest a more complex history behind the site. Some propose that the construction methods may have been influenced by neighboring cultures, such as the Phoenicians or Egyptians, who were known for their advanced engineering skills. The possibility that Tel Dan was a center of cross-cultural exchange raises questions about the interconnectedness of the ancient world. Could it be that the builders of Tel Dan were part of a larger network of cities that shared knowledge and technology, making the construction of the ramparts possible in ways we still don't fully understand? What makes the mystery of the ramparts even more compelling is the discovery of a monumental inscription found at the site. The famous House of David inscription, which references the biblical King David and his dynasty. This finding has sparked debates among historians and scholars about the historical accuracy of biblical accounts and the role of Tel Dan in the greater history of Israel. Some argue that this inscription, along with the ramparts themselves, may provide crucial evidence for the existence of the Davidic dynasty and its influence on the region. Yet, while the inscription offers valuable insight into the city's history, it also raises new questions. What role did Tel Dan play in the power struggles of the time? Was it a major political and religious center, or simply a strategic outpost on the edge of a larger empire? The mystery of the Tel Dan ramparts is further deepened by the sheer difficulty in replicating their construction. Modern engineering techniques have allowed for the movement of massive stones, but even with today's technology, it would be nearly impossible to recreate the precise methods used by the builders of Tel Dan. The site's steep location and the immensity of the stones suggest that the builders had access to techniques and tools that are either lost to history or that we have yet to fully comprehend. How did they accomplish this? Was it the work of skilled artisans and engineers, or were there more advanced technologies at play, lost to the passage of time? Adding to the complexity of the site is the fact that Tel Dan was a center of continuous habitation for centuries, and its ramparts have been rebuilt and altered over time. Some sections of the walls show evidence of later reconstruction, suggesting that the ramparts were not a static feature, but part of an evolving strategy to maintain the city's defenses. Were the ramparts merely a response to military threats, or did they play a more symbolic role, representing the city's enduring strength and resilience through generations? Perhaps one of the most perplexing elements of the Tel Dan ramparts is their relationship with the surrounding landscape. The fortifications appear to be deliberately aligned with the natural geography of the area, as if the builders were working in harmony with the land itself. This integration of architecture and landscape invites speculation about the role of the natural environment in ancient construction practices. Could it be that the builders of Tel Dan were not only skilled architects, but also intimately attuned to the rhythms of the land, using it to enhance the effectiveness and durability of their structures? As we stand before the imposing walls of the Tel Dan ramparts, we are confronted with more than just a physical monument to an ancient civilization. We are faced with an enigma that challenges our understanding of ancient engineering, culture, and history. The question that lingers is not simply how these ramparts were built, but why they were built in the first place, and what they tell us about the people who constructed them. In the absence of clear answers, we are left to wonder, what secrets remain hidden within these ancient stones? What knowledge has been lost to time, and what mysteries still await discovery? Deep in the rugged hills of northwestern Iran, near the border with Azerbaijan, lies one of the most intriguing archaeological sites in the ancient world, the Hasanlu stone citadel. A sprawling, fortified city once home to the inhabitants of the ancient kingdom of Urartu, Hasanlu's ruins sit quietly atop a high plateau, commanding a panoramic view of the surrounding valleys. Today, the site seems tranquil, but it conceals a history that is anything but peaceful, a history that remains obscured by time and wrapped in mystery. Discovered in 1956 by an American archaeological expedition, Hasanlu quickly revealed itself to be a treasure trove of ancient artifacts. Over the years, excavations have uncovered countless relics, intricately designed pottery, bronze weapons, jewelry, and the remains of buildings that speak to a level of sophistication unseen in much of the ancient Near East. But it is not just the wealth of material culture that has drawn attention to this site. It is the very nature of its destruction. An event so sudden and catastrophic, it is still the subject of heated debate among archaeologists. At its peak, the city of Hasanlu stood as a significant urban center in the region, likely serving as a hub for trade, culture, and governance. The massive stone walls that encircle the citadel are a testament to the city's strategic importance and its need for protection. Yet, despite its formidable defenses, the city was abruptly destroyed around 800 BCE. The evidence of this destruction is unmistakable. Layers of ash, charred remains of buildings, and the unmistakable traces of a violent conquest. What remains of the city now is an unsettling silence, a stark contrast to the bustling metropolis that once thrived here. It is the nature of this sudden collapse that has left scholars and researchers puzzled. Most mainstream explanations suggest that Hasanlu was destroyed during an invasion by the Medes, a nomadic people who rose to power in the region during this period. The city's strategic location, near the Zagros Mountains and major trade routes, made it an attractive target for conquest, Yet the evidence does not fully support this theory. While there are signs of destruction consistent with an invasion, burned buildings, broken pottery, and the remains of a large number of people, there is no clear indication of a full-scale battle. Some experts even suggest that the site's destruction may have been more of a sudden siege rather than an outright war. What is more perplexing, however, is the condition of the city when it was abandoned. There are no signs of a gradual decline or a peaceful evacuation, only the sharp, violent marks of sudden destruction. Entire sections of the citadel appear to have been intentionally destroyed or left to decay. Large portions of the defensive walls were dismantled, and a great deal of the city's architecture was torn apart. Was this the work of invaders who wished to ensure that nothing of value remained? Or was there something else at play, something more mysterious and less straightforward? Among the most haunting discoveries at Hasanlu are the remains of its inhabitants. In one of the most dramatic finds, archaeologists uncovered a group of bodies in a ruined structure. These skeletal remains, preserved in the collapsed rubble, appear to have been killed during the final moments of the city's downfall. Many of the bodies were found in defensive postures, suggesting that the people of Hasanlu fought to protect their homes until the very end. The tragic scene is one of the most poignant reminders of the city's violent demise. But who were these people, and what happened to them? Were they caught in the midst of a battle, or was their death part of something far more mysterious? One of the most striking elements of Hasanlu is its advanced stonework, particularly in the city's walls and towers. The construction of these massive structures, using enormous stone blocks, raises further questions about the methods and tools employed by the city's builders. The precision with which the stones were cut and placed together suggests a level of architectural expertise that is difficult to reconcile with the limited technology of the time. How did the people of Hasanlu manage to transport and carve such immense stones, some of which weigh several tons, and fit them together so perfectly? Did they have access to tools and techniques that have since been lost to history? Some have suggested that Hasanlu's builders were influenced by the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, whose impressive stonework is well documented. Others propose that the city's builders may have possessed more advanced techniques that have since been forgotten. Could the builders of Hasanlu have used methods that we are still unable to replicate today? The mystery of how these structures were created is compounded by the fact that no similar cities or fortifications have been found in the region, leaving scholars to wonder whether Hasanlu's architecture was an anomaly or whether it was part of a lost tradition that has yet to be uncovered. As fascinating as the city's stone structures are, it is the discovery of the Hasanlu gold that has captured the public's imagination. A collection of gold jewelry, including intricately designed necklaces, bracelets, and rings, was unearthed in a tomb within the city. The sheer craftsmanship of these artifacts suggests that the people of Hasanlu were not only skilled builders, but also highly sophisticated artisans. Yet, the discovery of these treasures raises further questions. Were these items created locally, or were they imported from elsewhere? And if they were created locally, what did the advanced techniques used to craft such intricate jewelry reveal about the people of Hasanlu? Were they part of a broader cultural network, or were they isolated in their artistic achievements? Despite the wealth of artifacts and the compelling evidence of an advanced civilization, much about the city remains shrouded in mystery. While scholars generally agree on the basic chronology of Hasanlu's rise and fall, the finer details, the how and the why of its destruction, remain elusive. Was it a victim of the shifting political tides of the time, or was its downfall part of a larger, more enigmatic pattern of collapse? The violent end of Hasanlu leaves us with more questions than answers. Perhaps the most perplexing question of all is why the city's destruction remains so abrupt and unexplained. In an era when cities rose and fell over decades, even centuries, The suddenness of Hasanlu's demise is difficult to reconcile. Could it have been destroyed by an ancient, cataclysmic event that we have yet to understand? Or was it a deliberate act carried out by its own inhabitants or by an unknown force that remains hidden in the shadows of history? As we stand amidst the ruins of Hasanlu, we are reminded of how much is still waiting to be uncovered about the past. What secrets are buried within the stones, the artifacts, and the remains of the people who once called this city home? And, perhaps most unsettling of all, what if the true story of Hasanlu has yet to be told? What mysteries are still hidden beneath the layers of earth and time, waiting to be revealed? High in the mountains of Albania, nestled among dense forests and jagged ridgelines, lies one of the most enigmatic ancient settlements in the Balkans, the Selca stone settlement. The ruins are scattered across a remote plateau, hidden away from modern civilization, where they remain untouched by the passing of time. Here, the land holds an ancient secret, a story frozen in stone that still defies full understanding. The site is named after the village of Selca, which lies just below the ancient settlement, but it is the mysterious stone structures scattered across the plateau that have captured the attention of archaeologists and historians. These are no ordinary ruins. The Selca settlement is defined by its vast stone constructions, some of which are so carefully built and intricately designed that they almost seem to defy the limitations of the tools and techniques available at the time. Constructed from massive, hewn stone blocks, these structures show a level of engineering sophistication that is startling for the period in which they were built, roughly around the 2nd to 3rd millennium BCE. The most striking feature of Selca is its sheer scale. Towering stone walls, some reaching over 10 feet in height, form a labyrinth of enclosures and terraces. The complexity of the layout suggests that these were not merely rudimentary homes or fortifications, but a well-planned settlement that might have had a more specific purpose. The construction of these walls requires an understanding of architectural principles that, according to the prevailing understanding of the time, should not have been possible. But it's not just the size of the stones that raises questions. It's the precision with which they were shaped and arranged. The stones, some of which weigh several tons, fit together with remarkable accuracy, and their placement suggests the use of advanced engineering techniques that have yet to be replicated by modern archaeologists. How were these massive stones transported across such rugged terrain? And how did the builders manage to cut and fit the stones so seamlessly, without the use of mortar or modern tools? For years, archaeologists have attempted to explain the origins and construction methods of the Selca stone settlement, but each explanation seems to leave more questions than it answers. Some believe that the site was built by the Illyrians, an ancient people who inhabited the Western Balkans, while others suggest it could be the work of a completely different, now vanished civilization, whose techniques and knowledge have been lost to history. The lack of written records from the period only deepens the mystery, as there is no direct evidence to support any of these theories. One theory suggests that the site may have been a defensive stronghold built to protect its inhabitants from invaders or rival tribes. The walls and enclosures could have served as barriers designed to fortify the settlement against attack. Yet no evidence of a large-scale battle or siege has been uncovered. Instead, the absence of significant destruction at the site raises the possibility that the settlement was abandoned for reasons other than warfare. Did the inhabitants simply vanish? Or was the settlement abandoned for more obscure reasons? If it was a center of power, what caused its decline? Could it have been a natural disaster, a shift in trade routes, or something more enigmatic? Another intriguing aspect of Selca is the presence of what appear to be ceremonial or religious structures. Among the stone enclosures, there are large circular stone platforms and smaller shrines, suggesting that the settlement may have served a spiritual or ritualistic purpose. These platforms and shrines have been compared to other ancient ceremonial sites found throughout the Balkans, raising the possibility that the settlement was a center of religious or cultural significance. Was Selca the site of ancient rituals, or was it a place of pilgrimage? And if so, to what gods or deities did its people worship? Despite the many excavations and studies conducted at the site, the true function of the Selca stone settlement remains elusive. Some researchers have even speculated that it could have been a sanctuary or a place of healing, where the knowledge of ancient medicine and rituals was practiced. But without a clear understanding of the cultural practices of the time, this theory remains highly speculative. Could the stones have been part of a larger network of sites, each with its own spiritual or ritual significance, that once spanned across the region? One of the most perplexing questions surrounding the Selca stone settlement is the method used to construct the structures themselves. The sheer size of the stones and the precision with which they were cut suggest that the builders may have had access to knowledge and techniques that we have yet to fully comprehend. The stonework at Selca does not fit neatly into the architectural traditions of the ancient Illyrians, nor does it resemble the more common styles of other ancient civilizations in the Mediterranean or Near East. Were the builders of Selca using a method of stone shaping that has since been lost to time, or is it possible that they had access to tools or technologies that we have yet to discover? The mystery deepens further when considering the alignment of the settlement with the surrounding landscape. Some of the stone platforms and walls at Selca appear to be deliberately aligned with the natural topography, suggesting that the builders had an intimate knowledge of the land and its features. This raises the possibility that the settlement was not just constructed for practical purposes, but was also designed to harmonize with the natural environment in a way that we have not fully understood. Could the placement of these structures have had symbolic or astrological significance? Were they designed to align with celestial events, such as the solstices or equinoxes, in the same way that other ancient cultures built their structures to mirror the movements of the stars? The more we learn about the Selca stone settlement, the more questions arise. Despite the wealth of evidence uncovered at the site, the true purpose and origins of the settlement remain a mystery. Was it a fortified stronghold, a religious center, or something else entirely? The lack of written records, combined with the complex and unique nature of the stone constructions, leaves us with more speculation than certainty. How did its builders possess the knowledge and skill to construct such impressive stone structures, and why was the settlement abandoned? As we stand amidst the ancient stones of Selca, we are reminded that some mysteries refuse to be solved. The silence of the ruins echoes through the centuries, offering us only tantalizing glimpses of a lost world that may never fully reveal itself. The secrets of Selca may remain hidden beneath the stones, just out of reach, waiting for the next breakthrough or the next question to bring us one step closer to understanding the enigma of this ancient settlement. What knowledge, long forgotten, might still lie buried here, waiting to be uncovered? Far from the bustling cities and modern infrastructure of Kazakhstan, in the desolate steppes of Central Asia, lies one of the most puzzling and enigmatic archaeological sites in the world, the Begazy Megalithic Mausolea. Hidden among the rolling hills and expansive grasslands, these ancient structures, large, stone-built burial complexes, have long intrigued scholars and explorers alike. A forgotten world, now reduced to ruins, the mausolea stand as silent sentinels to an ancient civilization whose story remains obscured by time. The Begazy mausolea are not mere graves. They are grand, monumental structures built with such precision and skill that they evoke the mystery of other megalithic sites found across the globe, yet their context and purpose remain largely misunderstood. The site, dating back to the 8th century BCE, consists of a series of stone tombs and large, intricately designed burial mounds that speak of a highly organized and culturally advanced society. These massive stone complexes, some more than 50 feet across, are arranged in striking patterns, their stones carefully arranged to form elaborate tombs that were meant to honor the dead in a manner both grand and deliberate. The site itself is almost otherworldly. The vastness of the surrounding steppe, stretching endlessly to the horizon, creates a sense of isolation, as if the mausolea have been forgotten by time and space. The structures, though weathered by centuries of exposure to the elements, still stand tall, a testament to the skill and ambition of those who built them. The stones used to construct these tombs, some weighing several tons, are remarkably precise, arranged with a level of craftsmanship that suggests the builders possessed an understanding of engineering and geometry far beyond what one would expect from such a distant time period. While the size and complexity of the mausolea suggest a highly organized society, the exact people who built them remain elusive. The dominant theory is that they were constructed by the ancient Selca people, nomadic tribes who once roamed the Central Asian steppes. The Selca were known for their warrior culture, which thrived between the 8th and 4th centuries BCE. They were master horsemen, and their society was rich in both artistic and practical achievements, from intricate metalwork to advanced techniques in horsemanship. Yet, what exactly they believed, and how they organized their religious and social structures, remains speculative. The architecture of the Begazy tombs is especially notable for its inclusion of large stone pillars, megaliths that line the periphery of the structures. These stones are not merely functional. Their size and placement seem to have some symbolic or ritual significance. Some of these megaliths stand upright, as though they were meant to mark sacred spaces or guide the spirits of the deceased toward the afterlife. But what exactly was their purpose? Were they intended to symbolize the strength of the Selca people? Or did they serve a more spiritual function, perhaps designed to honor the gods or spirits of the land? Without written records to illuminate their meaning, we are left to wonder. What is particularly fascinating about the Begazy megalithic mausolea is the lack of comparable sites in the region. There are no known structures that rival the scale and design of these tombs within the Central Asian steppe. The surrounding areas contain a number of smaller burial mounds and simpler structures, but nothing on the scale of Begazy. Why would a society with seemingly rudimentary tools build such monumental tombs, and why would they choose this particular location to create their lasting legacy? What inspired them to invest so much labor, skill, and energy into these colossal tombs? Were they attempting to communicate something to future generations? Or was this the work of a powerful elite attempting to secure their place in history? As archaeologists have examined the site, they have uncovered intriguing artifacts that hint at the complexity of the culture that constructed these mausolea. Among the finds are well-preserved weapons, intricate jewelry, and symbolic ornaments. Many of these items appear to be crafted with considerable skill and artistry, reflecting a culture that valued both function and beauty. These objects, however, do not fully explain the purpose of the mausolea. Were these tombs simply the final resting places of powerful chieftains or kings, as is often the case in other megalithic burial sites around the world? Or do they represent something more complex? A society's attempts to immortalize not just the individual but an entire culture or worldview? One of the most mysterious aspects of the Begazy mausolea is the careful arrangement of the tombs themselves. Many of the burial chambers appear to be aligned with specific points in the landscape, such as the rising or setting sun, which suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. This alignment could point to an astronomical or spiritual significance, hinting at a belief system that tied death and the afterlife to the cycles of the natural world. Did the Selca people view the placement of the dead as a means of connecting with celestial forces, or were the mausolea part of a larger cosmic framework that we are yet to fully understand? Further adding to the mystery is the evidence of fire within the mausolea. Archaeologists have uncovered signs of burning, suggesting that ritual fires may have been part of the burial ceremonies. This is a recurring theme in ancient burial practices across various cultures. Fire, often considered a purifying or transformative force, may have played a key role in the spiritual beliefs of the Saka people, representing the passage of the soul to the afterlife. But why was fire so integral to these rituals, and what did it symbolize in their cosmology? Despite the wealth of archaeological finds, much of the Begazy Mausolea's significance remains speculative. How did the Saka people come to build such monumental tombs in the first place, and why did they invest so heavily in these structures, which seem to serve no practical purpose beyond the realm of the dead? Was the creation of these grand mausolea an attempt to project power and influence, or were they built for a more spiritual purpose, as the final resting places of revered ancestors or gods? Could they have represented something larger, perhaps the physical manifestation of a religious or political ideology that has been lost to history? The lack of written records, combined with the unique nature of the site, has left many questions unanswered. The Saka people, whose civilization was ultimately absorbed into other cultures, left no written accounts of their beliefs or practices. As such, the meaning behind the Begazy megalithic mausolea is left to speculation, leaving us with a profound sense of wonder and curiosity. As we stand in the shadow of these towering stone structures, the air heavy with the weight of ancient history, it's hard not to wonder, what if the Begazy mausolea are not just burial sites, but sacred monuments to a lost belief system, one whose echoes still reverberate through the sands of the steppe? What might still be hidden beneath the stones, waiting to be discovered? And what other secrets of the Saka people remain buried beyond the reach of time? Nestled in the wild, rugged landscape of Cornwall, England, lies the ancient village of Carn, Euny. Hidden amidst the heather-covered moors and surrounded by a panorama of rolling hills, this site remains one of the most intriguing archaeological mysteries of the British Isles. As you approach, the subtle rise of stone walls begins to take shape, hinting at a settlement that has long since passed into history, yet retains an air of quiet dignity. The remains of Carn Euny tell a story of a people, their lives, their beliefs, and their eventual disappearance. But much of that story remains shrouded in mystery. Carn Euny was once a thriving village during the Iron Age, believed to have been inhabited between 500 BCE and 400 CE. Today, the stone structures that remain stand as a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of its inhabitants. The most striking feature of Carn Euny is the presence of its subterranean structures, hidden beneath the surface of the earth, yet remarkably well preserved. These ancient dwellings, known as fogus, are deep, narrow, and labyrinthine passages, made of carefully stacked stones, creating a network that stretches below the village. These fogus, found nowhere else in the world to the same extent, are the key to the mystery of Carn Euny. What were they used for? And why did the people of this village build such enigmatic structures? At first glance, Carn Euny may appear to be an ordinary settlement, its simple stone huts clustered together in typical Iron Age fashion. But upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that this site was not built in the same way as other contemporary villages. The presence of the fogus suggests that there was something unusual about the people who lived here, something we may never fully understand. The fogus are not just ordinary storage rooms or cellars. They are complex, multi-chambered, underground sanctuaries, often built with the intention of creating a specific atmospheric or acoustic effect. The purpose of these passages remains speculative, but their presence raises profound questions. One widely accepted theory is that the fogus were used for religious or ceremonial purposes. Given the deep, enclosed nature of these chambers, they may have been places for ritual worship, offering the villagers a way to connect with their gods or the spiritual world. The dark, cool environment could have been symbolic of a connection to the underworld, or a place where the cycle of life, death, and rebirth was revered. But what exactly were the ceremonies or rituals performed within these fogus? Was there some form of sacred knowledge that the people of Carn Euny sought to preserve within these stone walls? And what, if anything, did they believe the Fogus could do? Another possibility is that the Fogus were functional in a more practical sense. Some archaeologists propose that they may have served as communal meeting places or areas of refuge during times of danger. Their location beneath the ground would provide protection from the harsh weather of the region, and the stone construction could have offered some defense against potential invaders. However, there is little evidence of violent conflict at Carn Euny, and the overall layout of the village suggests that the Fogus were not simply places of defense, but places of special significance, perhaps even linked to the social or spiritual hierarchy of the community. Adding to the intrigue of Carn Euny is the discovery of a number of southern British-style roundhouses scattered around the site. These were typical of the Iron Age, but what is unusual is that the circular structures at Carn Euny seem to follow a distinct layout that doesn't align perfectly with other known settlements of the time. Could this design be a clue to the cultural or social uniqueness of this village? Was Carn Euny a center of influence for the surrounding area, perhaps attracting people from distant regions, all seeking the supposed power of the Fogus or the village's sacred qualities? The overall structure of the settlement itself also invites questions. The village was carefully planned, with stone-built walls and paths creating a tight, compact arrangement, which suggests that its inhabitants were organized and intentional in how they interacted with the environment. Yet, despite its apparent structure, no significant evidence of large-scale agriculture or trade has been found at Carn Euny, leading to speculation about the nature of its economy. Was this a settlement of religious elites using their Fogus and the surrounding land for purposes we can only speculate about? Was Carn Euny a sanctuary of sorts, a place where people came not only to live but to perform rituals that shaped their understanding of the world? Then there is the question of the settlement's eventual abandonment. By the 5th century CE, Carn Euny had fallen into decline. The reasons for this collapse remain unclear. Was it the result of natural disasters, such as flooding or a harsh winter? Or perhaps it was the consequence of shifting cultural or political landscapes. Maybe the influence of the Romans, or later the Saxons, led to the decline of the village? There is also the possibility that the Fogus, which had served as the beating heart of the settlement, lost their significance over time. Did the people of Carn Euny abandon the site for some reason tied to a change in their beliefs, or did they simply outgrow the structures they had built? Without written records, the reasons for their departure are left to speculation, and the suddenness of their disappearance only deepens the mystery. Among the artifacts uncovered at Carn Euny, one of the most enigmatic is the discovery of human remains, bones found within the Fogus themselves. This suggests that the burial practices of the village were intertwined with the structures, further hinting at the ceremonial or religious purpose of these underground chambers. Was this site used for ancestral veneration, where the dead were kept in the very place that once served as a space for the living to communicate with the divine? As with so many ancient sites, the more we discover about Carn Euny, the more questions arise. Was it merely an Iron Age settlement, or was it a site of spiritual significance that spanned centuries, holding mysteries that even its inhabitants may have struggled to understand? The Fogus, with their labyrinthine passageways and purposeful design, seem to suggest that the people of Carn Euny held beliefs that were far from ordinary, beliefs that are not easily comprehended through the lens of modern understanding. Could it be that the Fogus were not simply a means of communication with the gods, but a symbol of something much deeper, a reflection of the cycle of life and death, a place where the living and the dead were intimately connected? Or could there be another explanation entirely, something beyond the realm of conventional archaeology, waiting to be uncovered as the sands of time continue to shift? As we stand on the moors, looking over the remains of Carn Euny, we are left with a sense of awe and unease. An awareness that while the stone walls and chambers may reveal the ingenuity of their builders, they also guard a secret, one that we may never fully understand. What was the true purpose of the Fogus? What did the people of Carn Euny believe, and why did they choose this remote place to build such a remarkable settlement? These questions remain unanswered, and as the centuries pass, the mystery endures, beckoning us to look deeper into the past, but always leaving us with more questions than answers. Perched on the edge of a barren plateau, in the vast, arid expanse of northern Chile's Atacama Desert, the ancient fortress of Pukara de Quitor rises sharply against the backdrop of jagged mountains and deep, winding valleys. The sight is both haunting and majestic, a sprawling stone fortress that seems to have grown organically from the rocky landscape. Its thick walls and defensive structures tell a story of survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Yet despite the fortress's grandeur and strategic importance, much about it remains a mystery, an enigma, tightly bound to the forgotten history of the indigenous people who once called this land home. Built between 900 and 1500 CE, Pukara de Quitor was the stronghold of the Atacameño, a pre-Columbian civilization that flourished in the Andes before the arrival of the Spanish. Situated on a high ridge above the fertile San Pedro Valley, the fortress commands a commanding view of the surrounding desert and the oasis below, a critical point along ancient trade routes. The Atacameño people, skilled in agriculture, pottery, and metallurgy, are thought to have used the fortress to control and protect the vital water sources in the region. Their ability to adapt to the unforgiving desert environment remains one of their greatest achievements, but their mysterious abandonment of Pukara de Quitor still perplexes modern scholars. As you approach Pukara de Quitor, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the stone structures. The walls, made of tightly interlocking stones, rise up from the ground with incredible precision. Some sections of the fortress are built directly into the rocky outcrops, while others are carefully constructed, with stone staircases leading up to the highest points, offering panoramic views of the valley below. The layout is clearly defensive, with a series of walls and gates designed to protect the settlement from outside threats, as well as to secure the surrounding land from rival groups. Yet, as with many ancient fortresses, the purpose of Pukara de Quitor goes beyond mere defense. The strategic location and complex architecture suggest that it was much more than a military outpost. One of the most striking features of Pukara de Quitor is the sophistication of its construction. The stonework is so precise that many of the walls fit together without the use of mortar, creating a bond so tight that even after centuries of exposure to the harsh desert winds, they have remained remarkably intact. This raises several questions. How did the Atacameño people manage to cut, shape, and transport these massive stones across such rugged terrain, especially given the apparent lack of advanced tools? And how did they design a fortress capable of withstanding the intense temperature fluctuations of the desert, where the searing heat of the day is followed by the freezing cold of the night? Despite the impressive nature of the fortress, the reasons behind its construction and its eventual abandonment remain unclear. The prevailing theory is that Pukara de Quitor was a center of power for the Atacameño people, possibly a political or religious hub that governed the surrounding region. Evidence of ceremonial activity has been found at the site, including small stone altars and offerings, suggesting that the fortress may have also had a spiritual significance. Was it a place where the Atacameño performed sacred rituals, or was it a symbol of power, used to control both the land and the people? Another theory is that Pukara de Quitor served as a strategic military outpost, protecting the Atacameño from neighboring groups such as the Inca and the Mapuche. The Inca Empire, at its height, extended its influence across the Andes, and the Atacameño, located in a key position along trade routes, may have found themselves in frequent conflict with this mighty empire. The fortress's location, perched high above the valley, would have made it an ideal stronghold in the event of an invasion. But was it truly built to defend against foreign invaders, or could it have also served as a fortress against internal threats, perhaps a place to suppress dissent among the Atacamenyo themselves? What makes Pukara de Quitor particularly fascinating is its sudden abandonment. By the 16th century, when the Spanish arrived in the region, the fortress was no longer in use. The exact reasons for its abandonment remain a subject of debate. Some scholars argue that the fortress may have fallen into decline due to environmental factors, perhaps a long-term drought or the depletion of critical resources such as water or arable land. Others suggest that the Atacamenyo may have abandoned Pukara de Quitor due to external pressures, such as invasions by neighboring peoples or the expansion of the Inca Empire. The arrival of the Spanish with their superior weaponry and diseases may have played a role in the site's ultimate abandonment, but there is also a more speculative theory that the people of Pukara de Quitor were forced to leave their fortress for reasons beyond the scope of political or environmental factors. Could the fortress have been abandoned due to some form of cultural or spiritual crisis? The Atacamenyo were deeply connected to the land and its spiritual significance, and the abandonment of such a strategically important site suggests that something more profound may have occurred. Could there have been a shift in the spiritual or social order of the Atacamenyo, causing them to leave behind their stronghold and abandon the very heart of their civilization? Perhaps even more intriguing is the possibility that the fortress itself holds secrets yet to be uncovered. Some archaeologists believe that there are still hidden chambers within the site, underground structures or rooms concealed within the walls of the fortress. These hidden areas could hold clues to the true purpose of the site, offering new insights into the lives and beliefs of the Atacamenyo people. Was Pukara de Quitor simply a military fortress, or was it a place of greater importance, one whose full significance has yet to be understood? And then there is the mystery of the surrounding landscape. The San Pedro Valley, which stretches beneath Pukara de Quitor, is dotted with ancient irrigation channels, agricultural terraces, and stone-built aqueducts. The Atacamenyo were adept at managing water resources, creating an oasis-like environment in the midst of the desert. What drove the Atacamenyo to settle in this harsh land, and why did they choose to build such an impressive fortress at this location? Was it purely for defensive reasons, or did the land hold some deeper significance to the people of Pukara de Quitor? As we stand before the ruins of Pukara de Quitor, the wind whipping through the narrow passages and the stones silent under the burning sun, the questions only multiply. What was the true purpose of this ancient fortress? Was it a center of power, a religious site, or something entirely different, something that we have yet to comprehend? And why did its people leave it behind, abandoning the fortress to the unforgiving desert? The answers remain elusive, lost in the sands of time, leaving us to wonder what secrets may still lie hidden beneath the stones of Pukara de Quitor, waiting for the next generation of archaeologists, or perhaps the next discovery, to bring them to light. On the rolling hills of County Wicklow, Ireland, the ancient stone fort of Rathgall stands as a silent witness to a long-forgotten past. High above the surrounding valley, its crumbling walls rise in stark contrast to the lush, green landscape that stretches out below. Rathgall Stone Fort is not just a defensive structure. It is an enigma, a puzzle whose purpose and builders remain veiled in mystery, despite centuries of study and excavation. As you approach Rathgall, the first thing that strikes you is its location. Situated on a hilltop, the fort offers a commanding view of the surrounding area, including the fertile farmlands and winding rivers that once made this region so vital to the people who lived here. The fort's commanding position hints at its strategic importance, yet its size and complexity suggest that it was more than just a military stronghold. Rathgall is a massive site with multiple layers of stone walls, concentric rings that form its outer defenses. and a labyrinth of narrow passages and enclosures within. The walls are made of tightly interlocking stones, stacked without mortar, a hallmark of ancient construction techniques that have withstood the test of time. Rathgall is thought to have been built during the Late Iron Age, around the 3rd century BCE, though its purpose and the identity of its creators remain uncertain. It's likely that the fort was part of a broader system of hill forts scattered across Ireland, constructed by Celtic tribes who used these hilltop strongholds to defend against both internal and external threats. These structures were often the homes of chieftains or powerful clan leaders, providing them with protection and a symbol of their authority over the surrounding lands. Yet Rathgall's scale and the elaborate nature of its defenses suggest that it may have had a more specific, even ceremonial role. The outer wall of Rathgall is a formidable feature, stretching around the perimeter of the hill and creating a visible boundary that would have been easily recognizable to anyone approaching the fort. But what is most striking about the structure is the way it has been designed. Rathgall is not simply a single, isolated fortification. It consists of a series of concentric rings of walls, with each layer more complex than the last. The innermost area contains the remains of what may have been the central living spaces, including stone huts and foundations. These structures, though now reduced to rubble, would have once housed the elite of Rathgall, perhaps a ruling class or military leaders, who oversaw the surrounding settlements. Within these walls, archaeologists have uncovered numerous artifacts, pottery, weapons, tools, and other items that shed light on the daily lives of the people who once inhabited this site. Yet, despite the wealth of physical evidence, the site remains mysterious. Who were the people that built Rathgall, and what was their society like? The mainstream theory posits that the fort was constructed by the Celts, who would later dominate much of Ireland. The Celts, known for their warrior culture, art, and religious practices, are often credited with building many of the hill forts in the British Isles. However, Rathgall stands apart from many other hill forts in its design and construction, leading some to question whether it was truly the work of the Celts or whether it was constructed by an earlier or distinct group altogether. The presence of what appears to be a central, sacred, or ritualistic area within the fort suggests that Rathgall may have served a dual purpose, as a defensive stronghold but also as a center for religious or spiritual activities. In particular, there is evidence of a structure that may have been used for ceremonial purposes, with its placement within the heart of the fort hinting at its significance. Was Rathgall a place where spiritual leaders or druids conducted rituals? Or was it a more political center, a place where the leaders of the tribe used rituals to solidify their authority over their people? The unanswered question of its true purpose only adds to the sense of mystery that surrounds the site. The construction of Rathgall itself also raises fascinating questions. The outer walls, built with great care and precision, suggest a high level of skill and organization. Yet the people who built it did not have access to modern tools or machinery. How then did they manage to transport and place such massive stones, some weighing several tons, without the aid of pulleys or other mechanical devices? The answer may lie in the ingenious methods used by ancient builders to work with the natural materials available to them, but it remains unclear how they achieved such a feat of engineering. Were there advanced techniques at play here, methods lost to time, or perhaps unknown tools that have yet to be discovered? Despite the fort's imposing defenses, there is little evidence that Rathgall was ever involved in large-scale conflict or warfare. Unlike other hill forts, which show signs of violent sieges or destruction, Rathgall appears to have been abandoned without such signs. Some scholars suggest that this could mean Rathgall was a site of relatively peaceful occupation, perhaps a settlement designed to provide protection rather than to actively engage in battle. Alternatively, the lack of evidence for conflict could suggest that Rathgall's abandonment was due to factors other than military defeat. Could the site have been abandoned due to a shift in political power, a change in tribal allegiances, or perhaps a shift in the religious or social structures that once held sway over the region? Another mystery surrounding Rathgall is its eventual abandonment. By the early centuries CE, the site appears to have fallen into disuse. While this is consistent with the decline of many other hill forts in Ireland, the reasons behind this abandonment remain speculative. Was it the result of environmental changes, such as the depletion of resources or changes in the climate that made the area less habitable? Or was it driven by shifting political or cultural tides, perhaps linked to the spread of new beliefs or the arrival of outside invaders? Some have even suggested that Rathgall's abandonment was part of a broader trend across Celtic societies, in which settlements once thought to be central to Celtic power began to lose their importance as new forms of governance or society emerged. Perhaps the most compelling mystery surrounding Rathgall, however, lies in its symbolism and significance. The very design of the fort, its concentric rings of stone, its central sacred space, suggests a deeper, perhaps spiritual purpose. Could Rathgall have been a microcosm of the cosmos itself, with its walls symbolizing the separation between the known world and the unknown, the material and the spiritual? Was it a place of transcendence, where the people of the time sought to commune with the gods, or a place to prepare for the afterlife? These theories remain speculative, and without a clear understanding of the cultural and religious practices of the people who built Rathgall, the true meaning of the fort remains elusive. As we walk through the weathered stone walls of Rathgall today, the silence of the past surrounds us. There are no answers to the questions that linger in the air, no clear explanation for why this grand fort was built or why it was abandoned. And perhaps that is part of its power, its ability to spark our curiosity, to challenge our assumptions about the people who lived here and the culture they left behind. Rathgall, with its mysteries and unanswered questions, stands as a testament to the complexity and depth of ancient societies, reminding us that even as we uncover their material remains, there is still much we do not, and may never, understand. What else, we wonder, might lie hidden beneath the stones, waiting to reveal its secrets? Hidden within the lush, green landscape of Anglesey, Wales, lies the ancient settlement of Lligwy. Tucked away near the northern coast, this forgotten village sits quietly, surrounded by the rolling hills and wild hedgerows of the island. The site, which dates back to the Iron Age, around 1000 BCE to 1 CE, is a remarkable testament to the ingenuity of its inhabitants, yet it remains steeped in mystery. The settlement, with its carefully constructed stone walls, offers us a glimpse into a time long past, but one that remains tantalizingly elusive. As you walk among the ruins of Lligwy, the first thing that stands out is the rawness of the site, its simplicity and its power. Stone walls, half standing but still imposing, form the remnants of roundhouses that once sheltered a community in the midst of a bustling settlement. The circular structures, made of local stone, were once the homes of an ancient people who, like so many others across Britain, thrived in relative isolation, cultivating the land and living closely with the natural world. Yet, what makes Lligwy more than just a humble settlement are the questions that surround it. The village is surprisingly well preserved, especially when compared to other Iron Age settlements. Archaeologists have uncovered the foundations of several round houses, along with traces of a central courtyard and a network of pathways that once connected the structures. These houses, built using techniques passed down through generations, are far sturdier than one might expect from a culture that lacked modern tools. Each house was constructed from large, carefully placed stones, creating walls that were both durable and insulating, enabling the inhabitants to endure the harsh Welsh winters. Yet the true significance of Lligwy goes beyond its architecture. This settlement, with its neatly arranged stone structures, hints at a level of social organization that raises important questions. While many Iron Age settlements were simply places for people to live, Lligwy appears to have been a more complex community, one with a definite structure, possibly even an elite or ruling class. Why was this settlement so carefully planned? What purpose did its arrangement serve? And who were the people who lived here? One of the most striking features of Lligwy is its defensive nature. The settlement is surrounded by an imposing wall, which once enclosed the entire village. While it is not a fortification in the traditional sense, like those of the Roman era, it does suggest that the inhabitants of Lligwy were conscious of protecting themselves from some kind of threat. Some archaeologists believe the settlement may have been a defensive stronghold, a place where people gathered for protection from neighboring tribes or invaders. Others suggest that the wall was more symbolic, representing a boundary between the sacred and the secular, a place where the spiritual and the social intersected. The village's defensive wall is not the only aspect that suggests the settlement had a more specialized purpose. Throughout the site, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of specialized craftwork, such as pottery, iron tools, and the remains of metalworking furnaces. These artifacts point to a thriving, self-sustaining community capable of producing goods not only for its own use, but also for trade. The fact that the settlement was located on Anglesey, an island with long-standing maritime connections, further adds to the intrigue. Did Lligwy play a role in regional trade networks, or was it an isolated enclave? How did its inhabitants interact with the surrounding communities, and what role did they play in the larger landscape of Iron Age Britain? Another mysterious feature of Lligwy is the apparent absence of any substantial burial practices within the settlement itself. Unlike many other Iron Age sites, where elaborate burial mounds or tombs have been discovered, there are no known large-scale burial sites at Lligwy. This absence raises further questions. Did the people of Lligwy practice different forms of burial, or was there another reason why no significant burial sites have been found? Could they have left their dead elsewhere, perhaps in sacred or remote locations that have yet to be uncovered? The site's isolation, combined with the absence of known burial rituals, suggests that the people of Lligwy may have held a very different set of beliefs from their contemporaries. Some archaeologists have speculated that the village could have been a religious center, a place where rituals were performed to honor the gods of the Iron Age Celts. The absence of burial sites might reflect a belief in an afterlife that did not necessitate the physical interment of the body. Could the villagers have believed that the spirit of the deceased passed into the land itself, or perhaps into another form, making burial a less significant practice? One of the most captivating aspects of Lligwy is the possibility that it was more than just a place of daily life. It could have been a center of power. The strategic positioning of the settlement on Anglesey, with its connection to the sea and the surrounding landscape, suggests that its inhabitants were not merely farmers or tradespeople, but possibly leaders of a larger network of settlements. The presence of a large central area within the settlement hints at a place of gathering, perhaps for feasts or meetings, where political or social matters were discussed. If this was a center of influence, then why did it decline and ultimately fall into ruin? The reasons behind the abandonment of Lligwy remain shrouded in uncertainty. While some speculate that it was gradually abandoned due to the changing dynamics of Iron Age society, possibly due to shifting tribal allegiances or the arrival of Roman influence, others suggest that the site could have been deliberately forsaken for religious or spiritual reasons. Did the people of Lligwy abandon their settlement in search of a new spiritual or political order? Or was their departure linked to environmental changes, such as soil depletion or a long-lasting drought that made the island less habitable? The true cause of their departure is unknown, and the mystery of their abandonment only deepens as the centuries pass. One theory that has been proposed is that Lligwy was once part of a larger, more extensive network of settlements, and that its abandonment may have been tied to the rise of a new system of governance or social structure in the region. Could the site have been part of a larger ritualistic or political network that shifted to a different location, or even collapsed under the weight of internal conflict? It's also possible that as the Roman Empire began its encroachment on the island in the 1st century CE, the people of Lligwy simply left, drawn away by the growing power of Roman influence in the region. Despite the lack of conclusive answers, Lligwy remains one of the most intriguing archaeological sites in Wales, a place where the ancient past continues to hold secrets just beyond reach. The settlement, with its carefully constructed stone walls and its isolation from other known Iron Age settlements, offers a glimpse into a society that may have been more complex, more spiritually focused, or more politically organized than we can imagine. What truly lay at the heart of Lligwy? Was it a sanctuary, a place of power, or a community struggling to survive in a harsh, changing world? And what might still be buried beneath the soil, waiting to offer up more clues about the lives of those who once called this place home? As we stand among the stone ruins of Lligwy, the questions linger, tantalizing and unresolved. In the quiet of the Welsh hills, the site seems to hold its secrets close, inviting us to wonder what we have yet to uncover and what ancient mysteries remain hidden in the shadows of time. On the windswept shores of Orkney, a group of islands in the far northern reaches of Scotland, lies a peculiar and intriguing megalithic structure known as the Dwarfie Stane. Hidden within the rugged landscape, far from the bustle of modern life, this solitary monument stands as a silent enigma, a stone that has long defied explanation. To the casual observer, the Dwarfie Stane may seem like little more than an impressive boulder, but upon closer inspection, its significance becomes undeniable. Carved into its massive face is a complex chamber, seemingly hewn by an ancient hand, suggesting a purpose that has baffled archaeologists and historians alike for centuries. The Dwarfie Stane is a large sandstone block, approximately 25 feet long, 12 feet high, and 10 feet deep. It rests on the flat expanse of the Orkney mainland, near the shores of the island of Hoy. From the outside, it appears to be a simple, unremarkable stone, but a closer examination reveals that its surface is not naturally worn, but deliberately worked. A rectangular entrance is carved into the stone, leading into a chamber that runs the length of the rock. Inside, the passageway is narrow, and the interior is dominated by two small, bench-like structures, likely intended for sitting or reclining. This is no ordinary stone formation. It's a man-made chamber, a tomb or sanctuary, carved with skill and precision. But who carved it? And why? One of the most puzzling aspects of the Dwarfie Stane is its location. Orkney is known for its rich history of Neolithic and Bronze Age monuments, including the famous Ring of Brodgar and Skara Brae. Yet the Dwarfie Stane doesn't quite fit within the established patterns of prehistoric architecture. Its design doesn't resemble the large communal tombs known as cairns, nor does it bear much resemblance to the megalithic standing stones that dot the British Isles. It seems to stand alone, without direct comparisons to other monuments. What, then, was its purpose? And why was it built in such a remote and solitary location? The structure's age is another point of debate. Traditional archaeological wisdom suggests that the Dwarfie Stane was carved sometime during the Neolithic period, around 5,000 years ago. This would place it among the ancient tombs and sacred sites of Orkney, which were built by the people of the Late Stone Age. However, its precise dating remains uncertain. The stone itself is weathered, and there are few clues to indicate when it was first shaped by human hands. Was it constructed long before the well-known burial chambers of Orkney? Or was it a later, isolated attempt to recreate the sacred spaces of the ancient past? One widely accepted theory is that the Dwarfie Stane is a type of rock-cut tomb, a burial chamber fashioned from a single block of stone. Its design is reminiscent of similar structures found throughout Europe and the Mediterranean, where early civilizations used large stones to create funerary chambers. Yet, unlike many of these tombs, which were built with elaborate passageways and multiple chambers, the Dwarfie Stane is a simpler, more modest affair. Its interior is small, and while it could have served as a tomb for an important individual, it's unclear whether it was ever used for such a purpose. The mystery deepens when considering the lack of any associated burial goods or skeletal remains, which are typically found in megalithic tombs. The absence of such evidence has led some to question whether the Dwarfie Stane was actually used as a burial chamber at all. Instead, some believe it may have served a different function, perhaps a ritual or ceremonial space, a place of worship or meditation for the people who lived on Orkney thousands of years ago. The idea that it was a site for spiritual or religious practices is reinforced by the peculiar layout of the chamber. Its small size and the bench-like structures inside suggest a space meant for individual reflection or prayer rather than communal ceremonies. Could this stone, set apart from the other monuments of Orkney, have been a sacred space reserved for a select few? Adding to the mystery of the Dwarfie Stane is its name. Dwarfie refers to a local legend, which tells of a group of dwarfs who were said to have carved the stone themselves. According to the tale, the dwarfs were skilled artisans who lived in the stone and used it as a home or sanctuary. While this myth is clearly a folkloric addition, it points to a deeper fascination with the stone and its unusual characteristics. The association of dwarfs with the stone suggests that it was viewed as a place of mystery, something beyond the ordinary, a place inhabited by beings with special powers or knowledge. This folklore gives us a glimpse into how the Dwarfie Stane was perceived by those who lived around it, not just as a physical object, but as a site of myth and meaning. Yet, despite centuries of study and speculation, no definitive explanation for the Dwarfie Stane has emerged. Some archaeologists have suggested that the structure was part of a larger, now lost complex of similar sites, but this theory remains unproven. Others have speculated that the stone was connected to the rituals of a long-forgotten religious cult, perhaps one linked to the worship of ancestral spirits or the forces of nature. The idea that the Dwarfie Stane could have been used in some form of ancestor worship is intriguing, given its solitary nature and the careful craftsmanship involved in its creation. Could the chamber inside have served as a place to commune with the dead, to honor ancestors, or to channel spiritual energy? Some theories even extend into the realm of the speculative. Could the Dwarfie Stane have had astronomical significance? Given Orkney's long tradition of astronomy, with its ancient alignments and celestial observatories, some have suggested that the stone may have been part of a system of monuments designed to track the stars or the solstices. Was the stone carved in alignment with a particular constellation, or was its position on the landscape significant in terms of celestial events? While no direct evidence has been found to support this theory, the possibility that the stone was constructed with such precision and purpose cannot be ruled out entirely. In the absence of concrete evidence, the Dwarfie Stane remains a compelling mystery, one that invites us to consider the unknown possibilities of the past. What were the builders of this stone trying to achieve? Was it a simple tomb, a spiritual sanctuary, or something more enigmatic? Why was it carved in such an isolated location, far from the bustling centers of life in ancient Orkney? And why has it endured for so long, remaining largely untouched by the hands of time and human intervention? As we stand before the Dwarfie Stane today, we are reminded of the ancient power of place, how certain locations, imbued with mystery, continue to draw us in, even as they hold their secrets tight. What we know for certain is that the Dwarfie Stane is not just a stone, but a window into a world long lost to history. What it represents and the purpose it served may forever remain beyond our grasp, but that only adds to its allure. In the quiet isolation of Orkney, the Dwarfie Stane stands as a silent sentinel, waiting for the next generation of explorers to uncover what it might still have to tell. Tucked away in the remote, windswept landscape of the Peak District in Derbyshire, England, lies a mysterious monument that has fascinated archaeologists and historians for centuries. Arbor Henge. Often referred to as the Stonehenge of the North, Arbor is a stone circle of profound antiquity, surrounded by an earthwork embankment that hints at a deeper, more complex history. Unlike the more famous megalithic structures of Britain, Arbor remains a quiet, almost forgotten relic of the past, yet it carries within it a subtle but persistent aura of mystery. As you approach Arbor the first thing you notice is the stark contrast between the circular stone arrangement and the open expanse of moorland that surrounds it. The site sits atop a gentle hill, offering expansive views of the surrounding valley and hills, a commanding position that likely held both strategic and symbolic importance for its builders. The landscape is vast, raw, and unspoiled, lending an eerie tranquility to the site. The stones themselves, although now weathered and eroded by centuries of wind and rain, stand resolutely in their circular formation, their surfaces marked with ancient grooves and symbols, waiting for the keen observer to decode their secrets. Arbor consists of a circular arrangement of over 30 large, flat stones, some upright, others lying scattered across the earth, enclosed by a substantial earthwork. The stone circle is set within a raised bank, a type of henge, which was once used for ceremonial purposes by the people who built it. The central area, now devoid of its original megaliths, has been left open to the elements, while the stones themselves remain as silent sentinels to a time long past. The henge is thought to have been constructed during the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, somewhere around 2500 BCE, though its true date remains uncertain. The purpose of Arbor like many megalithic sites, has been the subject of much speculation. One of the most commonly held beliefs is that it was a place of ritual significance, likely used for ceremonial or religious gatherings. The circular layout of the stones, common in other megalithic monuments, suggests a connection to cosmological events or seasonal cycles, perhaps marking solstices, equinoxes, or other important celestial phenomena. The position of the stones, aligned with the natural landscape, could have served as a means of tracking the movement of the sun or moon, providing both practical and symbolic significance to the ancient people who inhabited the area. However, despite the similarities to other stone circles like Stonehenge, Arbor presents a number of unique features that set it apart. One striking difference is the absence of large standing stones in the center of the circle. While other stone circles feature a prominent central stone or a towering arrangement of megaliths, Arbor has a much more understated presence, with the stones that remain primarily serving as markers along the perimeter. This unusual design has led some archaeologists to propose that Arbor was not a typical ceremonial site, but rather a place for more intimate, perhaps even solitary, rituals. The central area may have served as a gathering place for initiates or small groups, rather than a site for large communal ceremonies. Another mystery that surrounds Arbor is the purpose of the henge's embankment, which encircles the stone circle. This raised bank, thought to have been created through the laborious process of digging a ditch and piling the earth along the circumference of the circle, would have made the site even more imposing when it was first constructed. Why would such an effort have been expended on a seemingly simple circle of stones? Some suggest that the embankment was built as a means of isolating the space, creating a sacred boundary between the earthly realm and the divine. This would imply that the site had a powerful symbolic significance, representing a boundary between the known and the unknown, the physical and the spiritual. The henge and the stone circle also raise questions about the community that built Arbor Who were they, and what did they believe? The people who constructed these megalithic monuments were part of a culture that had no written language, so our understanding of their beliefs and customs is based largely on physical evidence and interpretation. The level of organization required to build a site like Arbor Low suggests a society with a complex social structure, perhaps a tribal group with a ruling class that oversaw such monumental projects. The alignment of the stones, their precise placement, and the effort involved in constructing the henge all point to a people with a sophisticated understanding of engineering, astronomy, and ritual practice. But was Arbor Low simply a site for religious or ceremonial purposes, or could it have served a more practical function? Some researchers have suggested that the henge could have been used for agricultural purposes, marking the passage of seasons or serving as a space for fertility rituals tied to the land. Given the abundance of agricultural settlements in the surrounding area, it's possible that Arbor Low played a role in the cyclical patterns of planting and harvesting. The idea that the henge could have been a space where people came together to honor the earth, the seasons, and the cycles of life is both plausible and compelling. Despite these theories, there are still gaps in our understanding of the site. The fact that Arbor Low lacks the grandiose stonework found at other megalithic sites raises important questions about its function. Could it have served as a location for a different type of ritual or ceremony, one that was more focused on personal or localized spiritual practices rather than grand public events? Did the absence of large central stones indicate a more private, intimate setting, perhaps used by a smaller, elite group within the larger community? The mystery of Arbor Low remains unresolved, leaving us to consider its many possibilities. In addition to its ritual and practical functions, the mystery surrounding the people who built Arbor Low is further compounded by the lack of definitive evidence of how the site was used or why it was eventually abandoned. Unlike some other henges, which show signs of continual use and occupation over long periods, Arbor Low seems to have been largely abandoned after its construction. The reasons for its abandonment are unclear. Did the people of the area simply stop using it? Or did something more significant, such as environmental changes, social upheaval, or cultural shifts, cause the site to fall out of favor? Or perhaps, as some have speculated, the decline of Arbor Low was tied to the rise of new beliefs, a new era in which the old ways were no longer practiced, and the henge's purpose was no longer relevant. Moreover, the relationship between Arbor Low and other nearby prehistoric sites adds another layer of intrigue. The henge is located near several other megalithic monuments, including burial mounds and ancient barrows. Could these sites have been part of a larger interconnected ritual landscape, with Arbor Low serving as a central meeting point for various communities and tribes? The spatial relationship between these monuments, as well as their shared use of similar symbolic themes, suggests that Arbor Low was part of a broader network of sacred sites, each contributing to a larger cosmological or spiritual framework. As we stand among the stones of Arbor Low today, the wind sweeping across the open moors and the silence of the landscape filling the air, it's easy to be struck by the profound sense of mystery that the site continues to evoke. What was its true purpose? What rituals and ceremonies took place here, and who were the people that gathered in its shadow? The lack of conclusive answers only adds to its allure, inviting us to consider the possibility that the secrets of Arbor Low remain buried, waiting for a time when we might finally unlock their meaning. Perhaps the henge was more than just a stone circle. It was a place of transformation, a threshold between worlds, and a monument to a time and a belief system that we are only beginning to understand. Nestled deep within the rugged hills of Sardinia, there exists a series of ancient and enigmatic structures that have long captivated archaeologists and historians alike, the Nuragic sacred wells. These wells, scattered across the island, are not merely sources of water, but intricate sacred sites that offer a window into the spiritual and social practices of the Nuragic civilization, a Bronze Age culture that flourished on Sardinia from the 18th century BCE to about the 2nd century BCE. Despite their ancient origins and extensive study, These wells remain shrouded in mystery, their purpose and significance still debated. The sacred wells are striking in their design and construction. Many of them are deep, circular pits carved directly into the rock, lined with stone and often adorned with elaborate staircases leading down into their depths. Some are relatively simple, with smooth walls and modest openings, while others are more complex, featuring multiple chambers, intricate passageways, and even water channels that suggest a highly advanced understanding of engineering. At the heart of these wells is a central, often square or rectangular, well shaft, sometimes filled with water, sometimes dry, but always surrounded by the stonework that holds the space together, creating a striking interplay between the natural landscape and human ingenuity. The first impression upon encountering one of these wells is their sheer majesty and immensity. These are not simple utilitarian structures, but highly symbolic sites, built with care and precision. Located often near sacred groves, ancient temples, or other ritualistic sites, the wells seem to have been more than just places for drawing water. They were likely used in religious or spiritual ceremonies, as evidenced by the many offerings found within them. Objects ranging from pottery and figurines to the bones of animals, and sometimes even human remains. The sheer variety of these offerings suggests that the wells held a central role in the Nuragic worldview, perhaps as a conduit to the divine, a place where the living could communicate with their gods or ancestors. The most famous of the Nuragic sacred wells is the Well of Santa Cristina, located in the center of Sardinia. This well is a remarkable example of Nuragic craftsmanship, with its deep spiraling staircase that descends into a rectangular chamber, before opening into a well shaft surrounded by a stone circle. The surrounding structure has been carefully constructed, with each stone placed to create a sense of balance and harmony, almost as if the well was designed to embody some form of cosmic order. It's not just a physical structure, but a symbol, a focal point for the community's spiritual life. Yet the true purpose of these sacred wells is far from clear. While it's widely accepted that they were used for ritual purposes, their specific function remains speculative. Were they places of pilgrimage where people gathered to seek blessings or divine guidance? Were they sites for fertility rituals, where the water, a life-giving force, played a role in ensuring the prosperity of the land and its people? Could they have been linked to ancestor worship, with the water representing a bridge between the living and the dead, a way to commune with those who had passed on? The many offerings found at these wells, such as the bones of animals, suggest a possible connection to sacrifice, but whether these acts were meant to appease gods, honor ancestors, or ensure a successful harvest remains uncertain. What makes the Nuragic sacred wells even more fascinating is the complexity and sheer effort involved in their construction. The precision with which the wells are carved into the rock suggests a level of engineering skill that was highly advanced for its time. The staircases, which spiral down into the depths of the earth, indicate that the people who built these structures had a deep understanding of the natural landscape and the forces of water, which were crucial to their survival. But how did they achieve such precision without modern tools or machinery? And what drove them to invest so much time and effort into creating these elaborate and enduring monuments to water? Some scholars have suggested that the wells were part of a broader system of sacred landscapes, linked to other megalithic structures found on the island, including the Nuragic towers that dot Sardinia's hillsides. These towering stone structures, often appearing as complex, fortified fortresses, are believed to have had both defensive and symbolic purposes, serving as places of power and ritual. Could the sacred wells have been part of this larger network of Nuragic ceremonial sites? Were they positioned to align with celestial events, like solstices or equinoxes, marking the changing of seasons or the passage of time? Some researchers have even proposed that the wells were meant to symbolize the connection between the underworld and the heavens, with the descent into the well representing a journey into the earth, while the water itself embodied life's spiritual essence. The most intriguing aspect of the sacred wells, however, is their enduring mystery. Despite centuries of study and excavation, archaeologists have yet to uncover definitive answers about their use, or the culture that created them. The Nuragic civilization itself remains enigmatic, with few written records to provide insight into their society or beliefs. What we know of the Nuragic people comes largely from their monumental architecture and the material objects they left behind. And yet, even these remains offer only a partial glimpse into a culture that seems to have been both sophisticated and deeply connected to the natural world. It's also worth noting that the sacred wells are not unique to Sardinia. Similar water-related ritual sites have been found in other ancient cultures, from the step wells of India to the sacred pools of Egypt and the Greek temples dedicated to water deities. The shared emphasis on water as a symbolic and spiritual force across different cultures suggests that the ancient world may have had a much more interconnected understanding of the divine than we often realize. Were the Nuragic people influenced by broader Mediterranean or Near Eastern religious practices, or did they develop their own unique understanding of the sacredness of water? In addition, the mystery of the wells is compounded by the fact that many of them were deliberately filled in, covered over, or abandoned long before the fall of the Nuragic civilization. What caused the abandonment of these sacred sites? Was it a gradual shift in religious practices, a change in political or social structures, or the result of an external invasion or environmental catastrophe? The reasons for the decline of the Nuragic civilization remain speculative, but the quiet abandonment of these sacred wells, left to be forgotten by history, only deepens the mystery surrounding them. Standing at the edge of a sacred well today, as the wind carries the scents of the Mediterranean and the sunlight dances across the water's surface, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe and wonder. The sheer age of these wells, their intricate design, and their enduring presence evoke a deep connection to a time long past. What secrets do these wells hold? Were they truly portals to another world, a place where the living could commune with the gods and the dead? Or were they merely symbols of a society's deep respect for the forces of nature, a way to honor the water that sustained them? The answers to these questions may never be fully understood, but the mystery of the Nuragic sacred wells remains a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the people who built them, and to the timeless connection between humanity and the sacred power of water. Amid the golden fields of central Turkey, in the heart of the ancient region of Anatolia, stands a monumental testament to an early civilization, Alacahöyük, an archaeological site that dates back to the 3rd millennium BCE. This enigmatic location, once a thriving hub of culture and power, holds within it a mystery that continues to baffle scholars: the foundations of the Alacahöyük stone gate. These towering remnants of ancient architecture are more than just relics. They are silent sentinels of a long-lost civilization whose secrets remain tantalizingly out of reach. The stone gate of Alacahöyük is a remarkable structure, not only for its size and scale, but for the questions it raises about the people who built it. The gate itself, a monumental entranceway that once stood as a gateway to the city, is now partially preserved, its massive stone foundations still jutting from the earth. These stones, some weighing several tons, are intricately arranged, forming a passageway that once would have welcomed those entering the city. The gate, with its finely cut stones and precise construction, offers us a glimpse into the advanced engineering and architectural skills of the people who created it. Yet despite the grandeur of this structure, much of its history remains unclear. Who were the builders of Alacahöyük, and what role did this gate play in their society? Alacahöyük was once the capital of the Hittite kingdom, predating even the famous Hittite Empire that would rise to power centuries later. It is thought to have been an important religious and cultural center, strategically located at the crossroads of ancient trade routes that connected the peoples of the Anatolian Plateau with those of Mesopotamia and the Levant. The site's rich history is evident in the remarkable artifacts found within it: ornate pottery, intricate jewelry, and even large, detailed statues of deities. Yet, of all the discoveries made at Alacahöyük, the stone gate stands out as one of the most enigmatic. The gate itself is part of a larger complex of walls and structures that once surrounded the city. The entranceway is thought to have been a grand ceremonial portal, one that would have marked the transition from the mundane world to the sacred, as was common in many ancient cultures. The use of large stones, cut with precision and carefully arranged, suggests that this was not just a practical structure, but one that had symbolic significance. But what was its true function? Was it simply a defensive fortification, designed to keep invaders out? Or did it serve a deeper, more esoteric purpose, tied to the religious and political life of the city? The intricacy of the stone gate's design raises even more questions. The massive stones, perfectly placed to create a stable and imposing structure, suggest that the builders had a profound understanding of engineering. Yet the precision with which the stones were cut and the care with which they were arranged also implies that there was something more at play, something beyond mere defense. Was this gate designed to convey power, to awe those who approached, and perhaps to signify the might of the rulers within? Or was it more than that, a symbolic gateway to the gods, a threshold between the earthly realm and the divine? Further complicating the mystery of the Alacahöyük stone gate is the absence of definitive answers regarding the civilization that built it. While it is generally agreed that the Hittites were responsible for much of the construction at Alacahöyük, there is still much debate about who the people of this city were and to what extent they were connected to the larger Hittite culture. The Hittites, known for their advanced society, military prowess, and sophisticated culture, would eventually dominate the region, but evidence suggests that Alacahöyük was already an established city long before the Hittite Empire was fully realized. The question remains: was this gate built by the Hittites themselves, or was it a legacy of an earlier, unknown civilization? One of the more intriguing aspects of the stone gate is the discovery of what appear to be reliefs and carvings on the stones surrounding it. These intricate designs, depicting figures, animals, and abstract symbols, seem to tell a story, but the meaning behind them remains elusive. Some scholars believe these carvings could represent the gods or deities worshipped by the people of Alacahöyük, while others suggest they may be a form of early writing, a precursor to the more widely recognized script of the later Hittites. The exact nature of these symbols, however, is still unknown. Were they merely decorative, or did they have a deeper meaning, perhaps a form of protection for those passing through the gate, or a way of invoking divine favor? Adding another layer of intrigue to the mystery of Alacahöyük is the question of why the gate was abandoned. Unlike other ancient cities which experienced gradual declines, the fate of Alacahöyük seems to have been more sudden. While the city was once a thriving center of culture and trade, by the time the Hittite Empire rose to prominence, Alacahöyük had already been largely abandoned. What caused this sudden shift? Was it the result of external factors, such as invasion or conquest? Or did internal forces, political upheaval, resource depletion, or shifts in religious practices lead to the city's decline? And more importantly, why was the stone gate, which had once been such a grand and important structure, left to fall into ruin? Some researchers have speculated that the site may have been abandoned as part of a larger political or religious shift. Could it be that the gate, once a symbol of power and divine connection, was no longer relevant in the new order that emerged with the rise of the Hittite Empire? Did the people of Alacahöyük abandon their sacred sites and monumental architecture in favor of new forms of governance or spirituality? Or perhaps, as some have suggested, the site was left undisturbed for centuries, a place that had fallen out of favor yet still held some form of symbolic power. Theories abound, but the truth remains elusive. There is also the possibility that the Stone Gate was a part of a larger, still undiscovered network of sacred sites. The ancient world was often interconnected in ways we are only beginning to understand. Could Alacahöyük have been part of a ritual landscape that spanned much of the Anatolian plateau, with the gate acting as a central point for the people who inhabited the region? Was it part of a system of sacred architecture designed to invoke divine presence, where each structure, whether it was a temple, a gate, or a tomb, was aligned with celestial events or spiritual significance? While there is no concrete evidence to support this idea, the grand scale of the Stone Gate and the symbolism embedded in its design suggest that it could have been part of something far greater than a simple city gate. The mystery of the Alacahöyük Stone Gate remains a captivating puzzle, one that continues to draw researchers and explorers to the site in search of answers. The intricate construction, the symbolism embedded in its design, and the unanswered questions about its purpose all point to a culture that was far more complex and enigmatic than we often realize. What does the Stone Gate represent? Was it a gateway to the divine, a symbol of earthly power, or something else entirely? And why, after all these centuries, does this monument still stand, silent, resolute, and full of secrets, waiting for the day when its mysteries might finally be unlocked? Nestled within the sun-kissed hills of Minorca, one of the Balearic Islands off the coast of Spain, lies a collection of ancient structures that stand as both an enigma and a testament to the ingenuity of the island's early inhabitants. These remarkable structures are known as navetas, a type of Talayotic tomb that was constructed between 1000 and 800 BCE. While many of the other megalithic ruins on the island, such as the famous talas and navetas, have been relatively well understood in terms of their purpose, the navetas still evoke a sense of mystery that has intrigued archaeologists for centuries. The first thing that strikes you upon encountering a naveta is its distinct, boat-like shape. These stone structures, which resemble inverted boats or the hulls of ancient ships, were built from large, irregular limestone blocks that have stood the test of time. The name naveta itself comes from the word navis in Latin, meaning ship, highlighting the resemblance between these structures and the curving shape of a boat. The navetas are typically small, compact structures, yet their design and construction show a sophisticated understanding of architecture and engineering, raising the question, why were they built to look like ships? And what significance did this have for the people who created them? Unlike the more familiar megalithic tombs of the Mediterranean, which often feature large open chambers or passageways, the navetas are smaller, tightly enclosed spaces. The structures typically have a narrow, long layout, tapering towards the top, and are often topped with a flat stone slab, though many of these slabs have been displaced or weathered over time. The interiors of these tombs were once filled with the remains of the dead, along with artifacts and offerings that were likely intended for the deceased in the afterlife. Excavations have uncovered pottery, jewelry, and tools within the tombs, suggesting that the people who built the navetas had a complex belief system tied to death, burial, and the afterlife. But the purpose of the navetas remains a topic of speculation. Many archaeologists agree that these structures served as collective burial sites for members of the Talayotic culture, a Bronze Age civilization that once thrived on the islands of the Western Mediterranean. Yet there are few definitive answers as to why the navetas were built in the shape of boats. Could it be that the design was symbolic, an expression of a maritime connection between the people and the gods of the sea? The islands of Minorca and its neighbors, Majorca, and Ibiza, are surrounded by water, and the sea was undoubtedly a powerful force in the lives of these ancient people. Was the boat shape a reflection of the belief that the dead would sail across the waters to the afterlife, perhaps carried by a divine force? Or was it meant to evoke the idea of resurrection, with the ship as a vessel that transported the soul to a new life beyond? Adding to the mystery is the construction technique employed in the building of the Navetas. The stones used for the walls were carefully stacked, often without mortar, creating a structure that has withstood centuries of exposure to the elements. The precision with which the stones were arranged is impressive, especially considering that the builders of the Navetas lacked the sophisticated tools and technology we have today. How did they manage to move these massive stones, some weighing several tons, and arrange them in such a precise and stable configuration? The sheer scale of the task suggests that these structures were not the work of a small, isolated community but the result of coordinated labor, likely involving the whole society. Could the construction of the Navetas have been a communal effort, perhaps a way to honor the dead and unite the living in the face of a shared belief system? Despite the impressive craftsmanship, there are still many unanswered questions about the Navetas. How many of these structures once existed on the island, and what was the full extent of their use? Were they exclusively used for burials, or did they serve other purposes as well? Some have speculated that the Navetas may have been ceremonial structures, linked to religious rituals or festivals, and that their role was not solely focused on death and burial. The alignment of the tombs, the way they are spaced out across the landscape, and the absence of written records make it difficult to draw firm conclusions about the broader significance of the Navetas within the Talayotic culture. Perhaps these sites were part of a larger religious or social network that we have yet to fully understand. One particularly intriguing aspect of the Navetas is their relationship with the surrounding landscape. They are often positioned on elevated sites, offering panoramic views of the island's rugged coastline, making it likely that their creators imbued them with a spiritual significance tied to the natural world. Was the placement of the Navetas symbolic, perhaps related to the cycles of the moon or the stars, or to specific points on the horizon? In ancient cultures, the positioning of sacred structures often had a cosmological meaning, and it is possible that the Talayotic people also saw their tombs as points of connection between the earth and the heavens. Interestingly, the shape and structure of the Navetas have also led some scholars to compare them with similar burial structures found in other parts of the Mediterranean, including the islands of the Aegean. Could the design of the Navetas be a reflection of broader cultural influences, perhaps from ancient seafaring peoples who traveled between the islands of the Western Mediterranean? The idea that the Talayotic civilization was part of a larger network of maritime cultures opens up fascinating possibilities. Could these islands have served as hubs for trade, communication, and religious exchange between far-flung cultures, including the Etruscans, Phoenicians, or even the ancient Egyptians? The Navetas, with their boat-like design, may be more than just a local curiosity. They could be a symbol of the cross-cultural exchanges that took place long before recorded history. Moreover, the mystery surrounding the Navetas is compounded by their gradual abandonment. While the Talayotic culture flourished for centuries, evidence suggests that the use of the Navetas declined around the 1st century BCE, coinciding with the rise of new cultural and political influences on the islands. The transition from the Talayotic period to the Roman era marks a shift in the way the people of Minorca interacted with their environment, with changes in both burial practices and architectural styles. What led to the decline of the Navetas? Was it a natural shift in religious practices, a reflection of changing political dynamics, or the result of an external force, such as the arrival of new settlers or conquerors? As we stand before one of the Navetas today, its walls silent against the passage of time, it's hard not to wonder what it was like for the people who built it. What beliefs drove them to create these monumental tombs? And what did they hope to achieve by laying their dead to rest in such an extraordinary way? The boat-like shape, the meticulous construction, and the placement of the tombs all suggest a deep connection between the Talayotic people and the natural and spiritual worlds around them. Yet, despite the intriguing clues, the full significance of the Navetas remains elusive, like a riddle still waiting to be solved. Perhaps the true purpose of the Navetas will remain a mystery, buried beneath the weight of centuries of history. Or perhaps, as new discoveries are made and new theories emerge, we will come closer to understanding the meaning behind these remarkable structures. Until then, the Navetas will continue to stand as silent witnesses to a long-gone civilization, their secrets preserved in the stones, waiting for the day when they might finally reveal their truths. In the vast expanse of the Arabian desert, where the golden sands stretch endlessly under the scorching sun, a set of towering stone structures rises silently from the ground, Rathgall standing stones. Far from the well-known megalithic sites of Europe, Rathgall's ancient stones are a remarkable yet largely unexplained phenomenon, standing as stark sentinels in the harsh, arid landscape of northern Saudi Arabia. These stones, some weighing several tons, have intrigued scholars and archaeologists for decades, yet their true purpose and origins remain veiled in mystery. The site, located near the town of Al-Juf, consists of over 50 large, upright stones arranged in a loose, circular pattern. These stones, ranging in height from a few feet to over 10 feet tall, are arranged in rows and groups, scattered across an area of about 250 meters in diameter. Their weathered surfaces, etched with time and the elements, stand in stark contrast to the surrounding desolate land. The stones' rough, irregular shape and the way they have been set upright suggest that they were deliberately placed by human hands, yet no one knows who placed them there or why. What is most striking about Rathgall is its ambiguity. While stone circles are common in many ancient cultures, the sheer isolation of Rathgall makes its context particularly mysterious. Unlike sites such as Stonehenge in England or the Carnac stones in France, where the purpose of the monuments is still debated but their context within a broader cultural and social framework is somewhat understood, Rathgall remains enigmatic. The site is located far from any known urban centers or trade routes, and there is little evidence of permanent settlements in the immediate area. There are no written records or detailed historical accounts that shed light on who built the site or what it was used for. The stones themselves are not like those found at other megalithic sites. There is no consistent pattern to their placement. Some stand alone, others form more subtle groupings, with gaps and spaces between them that suggest they were placed intentionally, but not according to any standardized format. The lack of any other large-scale architectural or ceremonial structures nearby only adds to the air of mystery. Unlike the highly organized layouts of other stone circles and henges, Rathgall appears more chaotic, as if the stones were erected as part of an evolving process over time. Theories about the purpose of Rathgall are as varied as they are speculative. Some suggest that the site was a form of astronomical observatory, much like Stonehenge in Britain, used to mark important celestial events such as solstices or equinoxes. The alignment of some of the stones with the setting sun and other celestial phenomena could point to such a purpose. Indeed, many ancient cultures placed great importance on the stars and planets, using them to guide their agricultural practices and religious rituals. The people who erected these stones may have been keenly aware of the movements of the heavens, using the stones as markers for tracking time and the seasons, aligning them to key points on the horizon. Yet, while the alignment of some stones may suggest a connection to the stars, it is not as precise or consistent as other sites that were deliberately built for astronomical observations. Some stones seem randomly placed, lacking any alignment with specific celestial bodies, which makes the idea of Rathgall as a mere observatory seem less likely. Could there have been a more symbolic meaning behind the site's design, perhaps tied to the spiritual or cultural practices of the people who built it? Another theory posits that the stones may have served a ritualistic or religious function. Archaeological evidence suggests that the people who lived in the Arabian Peninsula during the time Rathgall was constructed, likely the Nabateans, a civilization known for their rock-cut temples and intricate knowledge of water and desert life, had complex spiritual beliefs. Did Rathgall function as a sacred space where rites and ceremonies were held? Perhaps the stones symbolized the divine or marked the landscape in ways that were integral to the culture's religious life. Could the stones have been a site of worship or offerings where ancient peoples paid homage to gods or spirits, perhaps linked to the desert and the forces of nature that shaped their survival? There is also the possibility that Rathgall was a form of marker, a site that distinguished the territory of a specific tribe or group. The isolated placement of the stones, without the presence of settlements, may suggest that the area was not meant for habitation but for something else, perhaps as a boundary marker, a space for group identity, or even as a ceremonial boundary separating the sacred from the profane. The people of ancient Arabia often used monumental markers like this, suggesting that Rathgall may have been a part of a larger network of territorial demarcations, though evidence for such networks is still scarce. What complicates these interpretations further is the lack of written evidence or clear archaeological finds. Unlike other ancient civilizations whose tombs and temples contain inscriptions or objects that help explain their rituals or beliefs, Rathgall remains largely silent in terms of material culture. No artifacts have been uncovered at the site. No pottery, tools, or other everyday items that might help piece together the lives of those who constructed it. This absence of artifacts raises a series of questions. Was the site deliberately left untouched, or has it been subjected to looting or erosion over the millennia? Was Rathgall truly a place of such significance that it was kept sacred and preserved without adornment? One of the most perplexing elements of the site is the lack of any indication of the people who built it. There are no signs of a permanent settlement, no large structures nearby that might indicate a thriving society. Instead, the stones stand alone in the desert, far from known routes or other settled areas. Were these people nomads, travelers, or a transient group who left no lasting cultural footprint? Alternatively, could Rathgall be the work of an isolated civilization whose legacy simply didn't survive? The isolation of the site has led some to speculate that it was built by a forgotten culture that may have vanished, leaving behind only the stones as their cryptic testament. Despite the intrigue surrounding Rathgall, the most compelling question remains: why did the people who built the stones choose this isolated location? What was their relationship with the land, the sky, and the divine? And why did they leave behind nothing but the stones, as if to ensure their mystery would endure through the ages? As the sun sets over the desolate desert of Aljuf, casting long shadows over the stones, the unanswered questions seem to grow even more profound. The silence of Rathgall is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. The stones stand as they always have, weathered and worn, their purpose still unclear, their origins still hidden. What were the people who built this place trying to say? And what, if anything, remains buried beneath the sands of time, waiting for discovery, for understanding, or perhaps for the mystery to remain unsolved forever? Tucked away in the remote arid expanses of northern Kenya, amid the rugged landscape of the Chalbi Desert, stands an ancient monument that has baffled archaeologists and historians alike for decades. This site, Namoratunga II, is a mysterious collection of upright stone pillars that rise from the ground in an eerie, silent testament to a long-forgotten civilization. Known as the Stone Circle of the Turkana people, the site is a strikingly enigmatic relic of an ancient culture that remains largely unexplained. Despite its seemingly simple appearance, Namoratunga II is anything but ordinary. The precision of its alignment, the intricacies of its design, and the lack of clear understanding about its purpose raise questions that no one has yet been able to answer definitively. The first thing that strikes you upon seeing Namoratunga II is its uncanny resemblance to megalithic sites scattered across other parts of the world, most notably in Europe. The upright stones, arranged in a circular formation, seem to point toward a specific purpose, though what that purpose is remains unclear. Some of the stones at Namoratunga II are slender and tall, while others are broader and squat, with no apparent consistency in their size or shape. Despite this, they are all aligned in a manner that hints at deliberate, methodical planning. The pattern of the stones, though not a perfect circle, suggests a specific arrangement, perhaps marking a connection to celestial events or the rhythms of nature. But why was this site constructed in the first place? The name Namoratunga II refers specifically to a series of standing stones, about 20 in total, that are thought to date back to the first millennium BCE. The stones themselves are made of local volcanic rock, and the area surrounding them is sparse and desolate, adding to the sense of isolation and mystery. They stand amidst the harsh conditions of the Chalbi Desert, an inhospitable landscape where little survives to speak of ancient life. Yet here, within this arid expanse, a sacred arrangement of stones remains. Interestingly, the site was discovered in 1973 by a group of Kenyan archaeologists who were initially surveying the area for evidence of early human habitation. However, as they began to study the stone arrangement more closely, they realized that this was no ordinary structure. The stones were placed in a way that suggested not only advanced knowledge of geometry, but also an understanding of astronomical events. Some researchers have suggested that Namoratunga II might have been used as an astronomical observatory, similar to other ancient stone structures such as Stonehenge in England or the Nabatean temples in Petra. The alignment of the stones seems to mirror the movements of the sun and stars, particularly around solstices and equinoxes, suggesting that the builders of Namoratunga II may have been using the site to track celestial events. But this theory, while compelling, is not without its challenges. Unlike Stonehenge, where the purpose of the site can be linked to well-documented ceremonial and religious practices, Namoratunga II lacks written records or clear evidence to confirm its exact function. The people who constructed this site are still unidentified. Was it built by the Turkana people, or was it the work of an entirely different, now lost civilization? Was the site purely utilitarian, designed for observational purposes, or did it serve a more sacred role, tied to religious rituals or burial practices? What complicates matters even further is the connection between Namoratunga II and other ancient sites found across the African continent, particularly in relation to the broader Nubian and Egyptian civilizations. Some researchers have suggested that the design of Namoratunga II, with its focus on celestial alignment and its use of standing stones, could have been influenced by the early Egyptians, who were known for their advanced knowledge of astronomy and their construction of massive stone structures. Could there have been cultural exchanges between ancient Egypt and the peoples of the East African desert? The idea of cultural diffusion between distant societies is a tantalizing possibility, yet there is little direct evidence to support it. Further complicating the mystery is the discovery of what some have called carvings or markings on some of the stones at Namoratunga II. These faint markings, though difficult to decipher, appear to depict symbols or figures, possibly of spiritual or ceremonial significance. Are these markings a form of writing, or do they represent something more abstract, perhaps a language of symbols and gestures tied to the celestial knowledge of the time? Could they be a form of early ideographic communication, a written or symbolic code used by the builders of Namoratunga II to convey their beliefs, instructions, or astronomical observations? Adding to the intrigue is the positioning of the stones themselves. They are placed in a loose but deliberate alignment, with the tallest stone located in the center of the circle, creating a focal point that some scholars believe may have been intended to mimic the sun's path or another celestial body. The stone's arrangement seems to suggest not only an awareness of astronomy, but a ritualistic or ceremonial purpose. Were these stones intended to represent the cycles of the moon and the sun, the ebb and flow of seasons, or the journeys of celestial beings? The idea that the site could have been used for religious or spiritual rites related to the sun or stars is a theory that continues to captivate researchers. Despite these fascinating theories, the mystery of Namoratunga II remains unsolved. Unlike other well-documented megalithic structures, where written texts or archaeological findings provide some clarity about their purpose, Namoratunga II lacks these defining features. It exists in isolation, with no clear connection to any known historical events, written records, or identifiable cultures. Its creators left behind no inscriptions, no clear symbols of identity, and no established explanations for why they built this site in the first place. Could Namoratunga II have been a place of initiation, where ancient peoples gathered to mark key moments in their lives? Was it a site where the living communed with the gods, or perhaps where the dead were honored through ritual and ceremony? The stones could have acted as markers not just of the heavens, but of spiritual boundaries, symbols of life and death, fertility and harvest, or cosmic forces. Or perhaps, as some have speculated, it was a place where different groups from across the desert came together for trade, spiritual rites, or political gatherings. As the desert winds blow through the area, carrying the dust and sand across the barren landscape, the stones of Namoratunga II stand resolute, guarding their secrets. The cold, desolate beauty of the site evokes a sense of timelessness, as if it is suspended between the past and the present, forever caught in a quiet, unspoken conversation with the stars. What was the purpose of this mysterious stone circle, and who were the people who built it? What knowledge did they possess that was so important that they left behind this monument in the middle of the desert? The answers, it seems, are lost to time, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to look beyond the surface of the stones and explore the deeper mysteries that lie hidden in the sands of Kenya. Until then, Namoratunga II remains an enigma, an archaeological puzzle that continues to invite exploration, speculation, and wonder. Will its secrets ever be fully understood, or will it forever stand as a testament to a civilization lost to history? Only time, and perhaps future discoveries, will tell. Hidden amidst the rolling hills of County Meath, Ireland, lies a site that is both awe-inspiring and deeply enigmatic, the Loughcrew Cairns. These ancient burial mounds, perched high on a hill overlooking the picturesque countryside, are a testament to the complexity and sophistication of the Neolithic people who built them. Comprising a series of cairns, mound-like structures constructed from stones, the site is part of a larger prehistoric complex that dates back over 5,000 years. Yet, despite their age, the Loughcrew Cairns remain one of the most mysterious and least understood archaeological sites in Ireland. At first glance, the cairns might seem simple enough. Piles of stone arranged in circular or oval shapes, some with central chambers or passages leading into the mounds. But the sheer scale and precise construction of these structures suggest something far more intricate. Scattered across the hilltop, there are over 30 cairns, some smaller and some towering, their stones carefully placed to form chambered tombs, each with its own unique design. The largest of these cairns, known as Cairn T, is perhaps the most famous. and within it lies a passage grave that has long intrigued archaeologists and historians alike. What sets the Loughcrew Cairns apart from other burial sites of the period, such as those found at Newgrange or Noath, is not just the sheer size or the mystery of their construction, but the peculiar and unexplained markings and alignments found within some of the cairns. Cairn T, in particular, contains a long passage that leads into the heart of the mound, where the remains of the dead were once placed, surrounded by stones etched with symbols and carvings. These markings, which resemble spirals, concentric circles, and other geometric patterns, are unlike anything else found at other Neolithic sites in Ireland. While some believe these marks were purely decorative, others argue that they may have served a more functional or symbolic purpose, perhaps related to the spiritual or astronomical beliefs of the people who built the cairns. The alignment of the cairns themselves also raises intriguing questions. Cairn T, for example, is aligned with the rising sun during the spring equinox, casting light into the chamber at the exact time of day when the sun crosses the equator. This celestial alignment suggests that the builders of Loughcrew Cairns had a deep understanding of astronomy and the changing of the seasons, a knowledge that may have played a central role in their religious or cultural practices. But why, in a remote and relatively isolated location, would they have gone to such lengths to create a site of such precision? Could the cairns have been intended as a calendar, a way to mark the passage of time and the cycles of nature? Or perhaps they were meant to align the living with the cosmos, allowing the dead to be placed in harmony with the heavens? It is tempting to draw comparisons between the Loughcrew Cairns and other ancient megalithic sites, such as Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids. These sites are often thought to have been built for religious or ceremonial purposes, to mark the relationship between humans and the divine, or to honor the cycles of life and death. Could the Loughcrew Cairns have served a similar purpose, functioning as a portal between the living and the dead, between the earth and the heavens? The presence of a passage grave suggests a connection to burial practices, but the lack of detailed evidence makes it difficult to say with certainty. Adding to the mystery of Loughcrew is the absence of any written records. Unlike the ancient Egyptians or the Mesopotamians, the people who constructed the cairns left no written language, no inscriptions to explain their intentions or beliefs. The stones themselves, however, speak in their own way, through their careful placement, their alignment with celestial events, and their intricate carvings. Some researchers have suggested that these carvings may represent a form of early writing or symbolic communication, perhaps a way to record important events or beliefs, or to mark the passage of time. But if this is the case, then what did the symbols mean, and how were they understood by the people who created them? Despite the centuries that have passed since the cairns were built, they continue to stand as silent witnesses to an ancient civilization whose beliefs and practices remain shrouded in mystery. The fact that the cairns were built in such a remote location suggests that the people who constructed them may have been part of a more isolated community, perhaps seeking to separate themselves from the rest of the world, or perhaps deliberately choosing a place of spiritual significance. The location of the cairns atop a hill, offering a commanding view of the surrounding landscape, may have had symbolic value, placing the tombs and rituals of the dead in a position of prominence, perhaps to ensure that they were always in sight of the living. But the exact reasons for the site's location and construction remain elusive. Some scholars speculate that the Loughcrew Cairns may have been a place of pilgrimage, drawing people from far and wide to pay their respects to the dead or to participate in seasonal ceremonies. The significance of the cairns, however, may go far beyond their role as burial sites. Could they have been linked to some form of spiritual or astronomical knowledge that was passed down through generations? Were they part of a larger, interconnected system of megalithic sites across Ireland, each aligned with the stars and the seasons, functioning as a network of sacred places? while the cairns were likely built over several centuries. It is also possible that the meaning of the site shifted over time. Were the cairns originally intended solely as burial mounds, or did they evolve into something more? Perhaps their purpose changed as the people who built them transitioned through different stages of cultural or spiritual development. The ambiguity surrounding the cairn's purpose and meaning speaks to a broader mystery: the way that ancient cultures left behind physical structures that defy simple explanation. There is also the possibility that, like many ancient sites, Loughcrew Cairns were not just places of death, but places of transition, where the cycle of life and death was acknowledged and ritualized in ways that we can no longer fully comprehend. The people who built these cairns likely believed that the physical world and the spiritual world were deeply interconnected, and that the cairns were a way to honor this connection. Even today, as we stand before these towering mounds, it is easy to sense that we are in the presence of something ancient, something larger than ourselves. The cairns of Loughcrew remain an enduring mystery, their stones holding secrets that time has not yet revealed. They ask us to wonder, what did the builders of Loughcrew know that we no longer understand? What beliefs, what knowledge, did they pass on through these stones? And what might still be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? In the stillness of the hilltop, surrounded by the sweeping landscape of Meath, the Loughcrew Cairns continue to beckon, silent, enigmatic, and waiting for the day when the secrets of their construction and purpose might finally be unlocked. Until that time, they stand as a reminder of the mysteries of our ancient past and the questions that continue to shape our understanding of who we are and where we come from. Hidden in the vast expanse of Armenia's Euny province, perched among the ancient hills and deep ravines of the southern Caucasus, lies a site that has captivated archaeologists and historians for generations. Zorat's Cairn, often referred to as the Armenian Stonehenge, is a sprawling complex of standing stones and megalithic structures that dates back over 5,000 years. While the central feature of the site is the impressive stone circle, it is the peripheral stone walls that form the true puzzle of Zorat's Cairn, raising questions about the function, significance, and creators of this mysterious site. Zorat's Cairn stretches across several hectares, with more than 200 standing stones scattered across the rugged terrain, many of them large, upright monoliths that vary in size and shape. These monoliths are arranged in a circle and concentric patterns, but it is the peripheral stone walls, long, low walls made from large stones that wind their way around the perimeter of the site, that draw the most intrigue. These walls, though less conspicuous than the standing stones, are an integral part of the Zorat's Cairn complex, yet they remain poorly understood. What was their purpose? Why were they built with such care and precision in this remote location? And what secrets might they be concealing, waiting to be uncovered? Unlike the large standing stones, which have been subject to various studies regarding their possible astronomical alignment and ceremonial significance, the peripheral walls of Zorat's Cairn have received less attention. Still, their very presence raises several compelling questions. Stretching for hundreds of meters, the walls are constructed in a somewhat haphazard fashion, with stones of varying sizes and shapes placed in seemingly random patterns. However, there is a clear intention behind the arrangement of these stones. Each wall is positioned to conform to the natural contours of the landscape, winding around hills, following ridges, and curving along the edges of ravines. The walls, though not as precisely aligned as the standing stones, seem to be an essential part of the overall site design. The most enigmatic aspect of the peripheral walls is the complete lack of any clear explanation for their construction. While the standing stones at Zorat's Cairn have been tentatively linked to ancient astronomical observatories or religious rituals, similar to the megalithic sites found in Western Europe, the purpose of the peripheral walls remains elusive. The walls are not aligned with any known celestial events or geographic features, making it difficult to tie them to the same purposes as the standing stones. Some researchers have suggested that they might have served as markers, defining the boundaries of a sacred or ceremonial area. Others believe that the walls may have been built for practical reasons, such as controlling the movement of animals or people within the site. But these theories, while intriguing, remain speculative at best. One of the more compelling, yet highly speculative ideas is that the peripheral walls were used as part of an ancient defense system. The positioning of the walls around the standing stones and the complex's central core suggests that they could have served as a means of protecting the site from invaders or marking a territorial boundary. This theory is based on the assumption that the people who built Zorat's Karar lived in a time of conflict or territorial disputes, necessitating some form of physical fortification. However, no evidence of warfare or violent conflict has been uncovered at the site, and the walls do not display the typical characteristics of defensive structures, such as the presence of fortifications, watchtowers, or fortified gates, making this theory difficult to prove. Another theory posits that the peripheral stone walls were used for ceremonial purposes. Given the apparent spiritual and astronomical significance of the central stone circle, it is possible that the walls were intended to delineate sacred space, marking a boundary between the earthly and the divine. The positioning of the walls could indicate that the builders of Zorat's Karar were creating a ritual landscape, a place where ceremonies, offerings, and rites could be conducted under the watchful eyes of the gods and ancestors. The walls, in this view, would serve as symbolic markers, demarcating the sacred from the mundane and creating a sense of order within a potentially chaotic world. This theory is supported by the presence of carved symbols and markings found on some of the stones at Zorat's Karar, suggesting a possible connection to religious or ritual practices. Some researchers have even speculated that the peripheral stone walls could have been used for a more practical, everyday purpose. The natural topography of the area around Zorat's Karar is uneven, with hills and ravines that could have made it difficult for people or animals to navigate. The walls, in this scenario, could have served as a means of guiding movement, either directing people to specific areas of the site or keeping animals contained within certain boundaries. This theory suggests that the site was not only a place of ritual or astronomical observation, but also a functional space for daily activities. While this idea has a certain plausibility, it does little to explain the intricate design and careful construction of the walls, which suggest a more deliberate and symbolic intent. In the absence of definitive evidence, the mystery of the peripheral walls at Zorat's Karar remains unsolved. What purpose did these walls serve, and why were they built in such an intricate yet seemingly unconventional manner? The theories put forward so far are just that, theories, and none of them provide a comprehensive answer. Could the walls have been part of an ancient belief system that is no longer understood? An ancient code whose meaning was lost over the centuries? Or were they simply a functional element of a much larger and more complex society whose cultural practices and ideas remain hidden from view? What makes the peripheral stone walls of Zorat's Karar particularly intriguing is the apparent lack of other similar structures in the region. While the site itself is part of a broader megalithic tradition that includes other stone circles and burial sites, the walls at Zorat's Karar are unique in their construction and placement. Why, then, are these walls found here and not elsewhere? Were they the product of an isolated or forgotten civilization, a culture whose knowledge and practices left no trace in the historical record? The mystery of Zorat's Karar, and specifically the peripheral stone walls, invites us to consider the limitations of our own understanding of ancient societies. Even as modern archaeologists piece together the remnants of ancient civilizations, there are still vast gaps in our knowledge. Some mysteries, it seems, are destined to remain unsolved, hidden in the landscape, buried beneath the weight of time and history. As we gaze upon the weathered stones of Zorit's Karar, it's easy to feel a sense of awe and wonder. What secrets do these stones hold? What stories do they whisper, waiting for us to listen? The peripheral walls may hold answers to questions that we have yet to ask, and it is in the silence of this ancient site that the greatest mystery may lie. What we know is that Zorit's Karar is a place of profound significance, whether we fully understand that significance today or not. It's a reminder that the past, like the stones themselves, is often layered in mystery, and the full story may never be fully revealed. In the remote highlands of northern Ethiopia, amid the arid, sun-baked plains of the Tigray region, stands a monument to an ancient civilization whose history remains only partially understood. The Lligwy Great Temple, one of the most significant archaeological sites in the Horn of Africa, rises from the earth like a silent sentinel, watching over the land as it has for over 2 millennia. The temple's sheer scale and strikingly precise construction suggest a society capable of remarkable engineering feats, yet the exact purpose and cultural context of the site continue to elude definitive explanation. Lligwy is thought to have been a central religious and political hub in the Kingdom of Demont, which flourished from approximately the 10th century BCE to the 5th century BCE. The temple itself is the largest and most impressive structure remaining from the Demont civilization, a civilization whose existence is only partially understood due to the lack of written records. The temple's ruins, with their towering walls and intricate masonry, are a testament to the skills of the people who built it. Yet, despite extensive research, the specifics of its construction and the full extent of its significance remain veiled in mystery. The Lligwy Great Temple stands as an imposing structure, built from massive, well-cut stone blocks that fit together with astonishing precision. It is believed to have originally been a square building with a single room measuring around 50 meters by 30 meters, though much of the structure is now in ruins. What remains is a vast, open courtyard surrounded by the remains of walls that once supported a roof, giving the temple a grandeur that still impresses visitors to this day. The walls, made of finely worked stone, are so tightly fitted that not a single crack is visible between the stones, suggesting a mastery of construction techniques far ahead of their time. The temple is thought to have been dedicated to a deity of the ancient Sabaean pantheon, with evidence of its religious function coming from fragments of inscriptions and ceremonial objects found at the site. These finds hint at the spiritual and political role the temple played in the Demont kingdom. Some scholars have suggested that it was a place of worship, possibly dedicated to a god or goddess of fertility, the sun, or nature, divinities commonly revered in the ancient Near East. The use of large-scale stone construction for religious purposes was common across the ancient world, and the Lligwy Great Temple's impressive design aligns with this pattern. However, questions remain about the specific religious practices that were carried out there. What rituals took place within the temple's walls? What deities were worshipped, and how did they shape the lives of those who lived in the surrounding area? Intriguingly, the location of the Lligwy Great Temple may also provide a clue to its importance. Situated atop a small hill, the temple offers panoramic views of the surrounding landscape, suggesting that its placement was not merely a matter of convenience, but of deliberate intention. Was it designed to symbolize the power of the Demont kingdom, with its elevated position reinforcing the perceived connection between the divine and the earthly realms? Or could the positioning of the temple have had more practical significance, possibly serving as a landmark or a place of astronomical observation? While no definitive evidence of such a function has been uncovered, the alignment of the structure with certain celestial bodies, such as the rising sun during solstices, suggests that the builders may have had some awareness of the movements of the heavens, a concept that was central to many ancient cultures. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Lligwy Great Temple is the absence of written records directly associated with the site. Although inscriptions in the ancient South Arabian script have been found at Yeha, they are incomplete, and their meanings remain difficult to decipher. Without clear texts or inscriptions that directly explain the purpose of the temple, much of the site's significance remains open to interpretation. The lack of written documentation is not unusual for ancient civilizations of this period, but it poses a challenge for modern archaeologists attempting to understand the cultural and religious practices of the Demat kingdom. What did the people of Yeha believe? What rites and ceremonies took place within the temple? And why was the site abandoned and left in ruins by the time other civilizations in the region were flourishing? The abandonment of the temple itself raises further questions. It is widely accepted that the kingdom of Dumt declined around the 5th century BCE, with its eventual collapse marking the end of its dominance in the region. The cause of this collapse remains unclear. Was it due to internal political instability, environmental factors such as drought or famine, or pressure from invading forces? The fall of Dumt would have led to the abandonment of many sites, including Yeha, but the reasons for this specific abandonment remain shrouded in mystery. What happened to the temple after its religious and political functions ceased? Did it fall into disrepair over time, or was it deliberately destroyed? And if it was abandoned, why were its impressive stone blocks left largely intact, as if the builders had simply walked away without leaving a trace? Adding to the mystery is the relationship between Yeha and other ancient civilizations in the region, particularly the Sabaeans and Axumites. The Sabaeans, who flourished in modern-day Yemen, were known for their advanced knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and religion, and it is believed that the Dumt kingdom had cultural and commercial ties with them. Was the construction of the Yeha Great Temple influenced by Sabaean architectural traditions? Some researchers speculate that the use of massive stone blocks and the overall design of the temple could have been inspired by the Sabaeans, though no definitive proof of such a connection has been found. Similarly, after the decline of Diemt, the Axumite kingdom rose to prominence in the region, and some believe that they may have appropriated the site for their own purposes. Did the Axumites, known for their monumental stone obelisks and their sophisticated architecture, inherit the legacy of Yeha's builders, or did they destroy the temple as part of their efforts to consolidate power in the region? Even today, as we stand before the ruined walls of the Yeha Great Temple, it is difficult not to feel a sense of awe at the mystery that surrounds this ancient site. The temple is not just an impressive feat of architecture. It is a window into a lost world, a world whose spiritual, cultural, and political beliefs remain largely hidden from us. The stone walls, the inscriptions, and the ruins all hint at a rich and complex civilization, yet so much remains unsolved. What did the people of Yeha believe? Why was the temple abandoned, and what became of those who worshipped there? These are questions that continue to intrigue and fascinate archaeologists and historians alike. As we look toward the future, it is clear that the mystery of Yeha is far from over. New discoveries may eventually shed light on the purpose of the Great Temple and its place within the broader context of the Dumat kingdom. Until then, the temple remains a silent witness to a civilization that, while lost to time, still holds much to reveal. Amidst the rugged hills of Sardinia, a small remote hilltop rises above the landscape, its ancient stones stretching out towards the sky in a way that both captivates and confounds the modern mind. This is Monte de Codi, a megalithic sanctuary that has stood for thousands of years, its purpose and meaning still largely shrouded in mystery. At first glance, it resembles an enormous stepped pyramid, its large stone platform positioned at the summit, flanked by a series of smaller stones arranged with careful intent. Though relatively unknown compared to other ancient sites in Europe, Monte Dacoti's significance is far greater than its quiet presence would suggest. The site is situated in the northern part of Sardinia, near the town of Sassari, and dates back to the 3rd millennium BCE, making it a monument of staggering antiquity. What makes Monte Dacoti unique among ancient megalithic sites is its unusual stepped platform. The platform, which resembles a ziggurat, a stepped pyramid-like structure commonly found in ancient Mesopotamia, rises several meters from the ground and is flanked by a set of wide steps that appear to have been used for ascending to the platform. The structure itself is built from large, roughly hewn stones, carefully arranged to form a broad rectangular base with a flat top. The alignment of the platform and its proportions are striking, suggesting an advanced understanding of geometry and construction techniques. At the top of the platform, a series of circular altars and other stone features add further intrigue to the site's function. Some of these structures are thought to have been used in ritualistic ceremonies, possibly involving fire or offerings to deities. The altar at the center of the platform seems to have been the focal point for such activities, and it's easy to imagine ancient people gathering here, performing ceremonies to mark the seasons, or perhaps to honor celestial events. However, the lack of clear inscriptions or records leaves much of the ritualistic significance open to speculation. One of the most mysterious aspects of Monte Dacoti is the absence of any definitive evidence linking it to a known civilization. Unlike the Etruscans or the Romans, who left behind abundant records, the builders of this sanctuary left no written language, no clear indications of their identity or beliefs. So, who were the creators of Monte Dacoti? Some scholars suggest that the site was built by a pre-Etruscan civilization, possibly the Nuragic people, a Bronze Age culture that thrived on Sardinia. These people were known for their distinctive stone structures called nuragis, which dot the Sardinian landscape. The presence of similar stonework and the use of monumental architecture at Monte Dacoti aligns with this theory. However, the purpose of the sanctuary and the precise identity of its builders remain speculative. The platform at Monte Dacoti is also aligned with celestial bodies, pointing toward the sunrise during the summer solstice, much like other ancient megalithic sites around Europe, such as Stonehenge in England. This alignment suggests that the builders had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and its potential relevance to their spiritual and agricultural practices. The fact that such an ancient site is so carefully oriented to the heavens raises important questions. Was the site a center for religious observance? Did the people who built it believe that their connection with the stars or the sun could bring them closer to the gods, or even influence the world around them? Or was it an observatory, a place for recording the cycles of the sky, perhaps to predict seasonal changes or agricultural cycles? Interestingly, Monte Dacoti also shares some features with other megalithic sites around the Mediterranean, such as the Caucasian stone sanctuaries and the ancient sites of Malta. These similarities in structure and purpose have led some to hypothesize that there may have been some kind of cultural exchange between ancient societies spread across the Mediterranean basin. Did the builders of Monte Dacoti belong to a wider network of ancient peoples exchanging knowledge of astronomy, rituals, and architecture? Was the site part of a larger cultural or religious movement that spread across islands and coastal settlements? There are also speculative theories that Monte Dacoti might have served as a healing center or a place of spiritual pilgrimage. The precise arrangement of the stones and the emphasis on astronomical alignment suggest that it could have been a site where the physical and spiritual worlds converged. The possibility of healing rituals, especially in light of ancient beliefs that celestial phenomena could influence human well-being, adds a layer of intrigue. Could the platform at Monte Dacoti have been used for healing rituals, perhaps performed by a priestly class, where sacrifices or prayers were made in the hope of invoking divine favor? What is particularly striking about Monte Dacoti, however, is its enigmatic connection to fire. Evidence suggests that the site was used for fire rituals, with traces of charcoal and burnt materials found at the site. This further supports the idea that the platform may have been used in ceremonial practices that involved offerings, possibly to gods of fertility, the sun or the earth. The role of fire in ancient rituals is well documented across cultures, and it is possible that the fire element at Monte Dakoti was symbolic of the forces of creation and destruction. But why fire? Why at this particular site? And what did it mean to the people who built it? Though archaeologists have made significant progress in dating the site and identifying some of its features, much of Monte Dakoti remains an unsolved puzzle. The ceremonial altars, the platform's astronomical alignment, the lack of written records, and the mysterious absence of further evidence all contribute to a growing sense of intrigue and wonder. Were the builders of Monte Dakoti part of a broader Mediterranean or European tradition of megalithic construction? Or was this site a solitary creation, born of an isolated culture whose knowledge was never passed on? One theory that has gained some attention is that Monte Dakoti was a place where early cultures sought to assert their connection to the land through monumental architecture, much as the Egyptians built pyramids or the Mesopotamians constructed ziggurats. If this theory is correct, it would suggest that the people of Monte Dakoti viewed their relationship to the earth, the sun, and the stars as central to their identity and survival. What might have driven them to invest so much effort into such an elaborate construction, especially in such a remote location? Despite the many theories surrounding its purpose and significance, Monte Dakoti remains an enigma. The site, like so many others around the world, invites us to wonder what might still be hidden beneath the surface. As we stand at the foot of this ancient structure, we are reminded that for all the knowledge we have gained, there are still places and peoples whose mysteries remain unresolved. The stones of Monte Dakoti, like those of other ancient sites, have stories to tell, but they do so quietly, in their own time, waiting for us to listen. What might still be uncovered in this sacred space? What secrets do the stones hold, waiting to be revealed?